On the road of catching up with Naruto, what annoyed Lee and the others the most, even feared, was the process of learning mathematics, physics and chemistry. Compared with the learning of ninjutsu, boring reading of textbooks is simply not something their group of overly lively guys can bear. And with the deepening of learning, the formulas and theorems that come into contact with become more and more complicated. At first they were able to keep up, but now, they have reached the limit. Different from the practice of ninjutsu, even if the practice is slow, you will definitely see results if you persevere. But mathematics is different. If you don't know mathematics, you won't. So when they heard that today was the last day of vacation, the faces of all those who didn't like studying became ugly. Of course, for Shueba, learning is not a problem. But little Sakura still sighed. It's really fast. It feels like the Chinese New Year is only a few days away, and the holiday is over. However, this holiday has also been fruitful. It's rare that Ino didn't contradict little Sakura. That's right, thanks to Naruto-kun, we also met Tsunade-sama, which is really a pleasant surprise. Although only met a few times, didn't get Tsunade to direct anything. But just seeing their idols is enough to make them extremely excited. Let's talk about happy topics. You said, the new semester has begun, will we learn new ninjutsu? Tooth changed the subject and said, although I have learned a lot now, the more ninjutsu, the better. After all, I know a lot of ninjutsu, and I can cope with some complicated situations. Shikamaru looked at Fang in surprise, and said with emotion, you really have grown up. Shikamaru didn't expect such words to come out of Fang's mouth. If it is Naruto, Neji or Shino, Shikamaru can accept it. But it's really surprising that Yaya, who usually thinks of being an idiot, can say such words. With the beautiful fantasy of future study and life, the atmosphere at the dinner table became lively again. By the time the meal was over, the sky had already dimmed. Everyone couldn't wait to go home. After all, it had been a long time since they went back. They can't wait to tell their family what they have seen along the way, especially Naruto's medical ninjutsu prowess. The next day, the bright sunshine illuminated Konoha Academy. One after another, students headed towards the classroom, bringing the school back to life. And Naruto's class naturally gathered early. They gathered together in twos and threes, discussing what they had seen and heard during the holiday. Especially Ya, surrounded by several little boys, all looking up at Ya. You don't know how tragic the scene was. Even Tsunade-sama dare not say whether the two people carried on the stretcher can be saved. As a result, Naruto said lightly, I can save. Then, do you know what Naruto did? Teeth paused for a moment, immediately dissatisfied the little boys around. What did Naruto do? Tell me. Don't hold your breath. That's right. Hurry up, hurry up. Be careful, we will take your pants off in public. Hearing the final threat, Ya immediately looked at the speaker vigilantly, and tightly covered his pants with both hands. These threats are not the same as Ya's expectations, but the sense of expectation has obviously been raised to a very high level. In order to avoid showing his butt in front of the audience, Ya could only speak quickly. The celebrity actually pressed the injured man's head on another healthy corpse, and then pressed his hand on the chest. I saw a flash of lightning. That man came back to life. Wow. Everyone was amazed, and then turned their heads to look adoringly at Naruto, who was reading quietly. So, they put their arms around their shoulders, raised their heads proudly, surrounded Naruto and said, Naruto, Naruto, tell us, what happened? I really regret that I didn't go with you, your trip was so colorful. And also met the legendary Master Tsunade. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. Why didn't I follow along at the beginning? The excitement turned to Naruto's side. But Ya stood alone, only a gust of cool wind blew over him. You guys. He gritted his teeth and looked at the little boys who abandoned him, and said angrily. Little Sakura and Ino were also surrounded by other girls. There was envy in their eyes. It's great to meet Tsunade-sama. I really want to meet Master Tsunade too. Little Sakura, please tell me, isn't Master Tsunade very beautiful? Is he very strong? Isn't Master Tsunade handsome? Little Sakura raised her head and said. Of course. That's Master Tsunade, and Tsunade-sama is very nice, and invited us to dinner. These words immediately aroused the envy of a group of girls. And the other side. The little boys around Naruto are still chattering. Naruto, just tell me. Why don't we talk about ours first, and you talk about yours? Naruto shook his head and said. I have said what I should say, and I know what you want to know. I still have to concentrate on my studies, please don't disturb me. Although Naruto clearly expressed his refusal, there are still some people who are not reconciled. It's already a new semester, and it's a good time for everyone to calm down, and then share with each other their experiences during the holiday. Among us, Naruto-kun, you have the most experience. Come on. Tell everyone about your experience during the holiday, so that everyone can open their eyes. However, Naruto still shook his head. If you want to know, go to the tooth. I still have to study. No matter how others persuaded him, Naruto never took his eyes off the textbook. In desperation, they could only give up listening to Naruto's own account of what happened during the holiday. And at this time, it was time for class. After being away from the students for 2 months, Iruka came to the podium with the teaching materials in his hand, and looked at the students who quickly sat back to their seats with emotion. Students, the holidays are over and a new semester has begun. I know, everyone is still nostalgic for the holiday time. But you are students, no matter how happy you are during the holidays, you must study hard when you arrive at school, strive to become 10 outstanding Konoha Shinobi practitioners. Okay. Class starts now, please turn to page 15 of your textbook. The first day of the new semester has ended without a hitch. The vacation has just ended, and everyone is still not used to it. I just want to share my experience during the holiday with my companions. I can't concentrate at all in class, on the second day. The students still came to the classroom early and shared with others the holiday stories they hadn't finished sharing yesterday. However, it didn't take long before they discovered a strange thing. Naruto is not here. Even though Naruto is the first to arrive every time, the teacher is not there. At this moment, the students all looked at each other in blank dismay, and had no idea of communicating. Every time Naruto did something uncharacteristically, it was always accompanied by something beyond their imagination. But this time, Naruto did not appear uncharacteristically, and they had already begun to imagine what would happen next in their hearts. But no matter how much you think about it, it's just useless. After all, they are not Naruto, and they cannot keep up with Naruto's wild imagination that day. Let's find Naruto before class, Tooth suggested. And his proposal immediately got everyone's response. Because everyone came early, there are still more than 2 hours before class. So everyone ran out of the school in a hurry, looking for Naruto everywhere. For the meatball shop, just split the ears. At home, only a clone is needed. Finally, everyone found Naruto in the practice field that everyone often goes to in the forest. I saw Naruto flying in the air while stepping on the long sword. There are countless long swords flying around, forming a spherical shape and wrapping Naruto in it. Tens of thousands of long swords did not collide in an area with a radius of no more than 10 meters, and they continued to rotate in accordance with order. This control power stunned everyone. This guy Naruto's control has gotten stronger again. Shikamaru couldn't help but sigh. When they were still looking for Naruto, Naruto would always inadvertently show strength or skills far beyond theirs. Sasuke clenched his fists hard, with unyielding fighting spirit in his heart. Because he firmly believes in his hard work and talent, Sasuke has the mentality to catch up no matter how powerful Naruto is. As my opponent, if I don't achieve this level, I will be very troubled. Sasuke pursed his lips, but looked at Naruto with burning eyes. Ya and the others were completely shocked. They may not be able to achieve this control in their entire lives. This is too exaggerated. I remember that there are 10,000 long swords in Naruto's sword box, right? So many long swords, how can they move freely in such a small space? Who knows, it's impossible for me to do such a thing anyway. If these are not long swords but sewing needles, I even doubt that Naruto can knit a sweater in an instant. It's very possible what you said. By the way, your angle is a bit surprising. Fang came to the practice field and shouted loudly. Naruto. It's almost time for class. What are you still doing here? Hearing Ya's movement, all the long swords froze immediately, and then flew into the sky in a uniform manner, making a sharp turn at a height of hundreds of meters, turning into a torrent of steel and rushing down. Under Naruto's control, tens of thousands of long swords made a whistling sound, and entered the sword box with a sharp momentum. Soon, tens of thousands of long swords got into the sword box one after another. Then Naruto fell from midair. What's wrong? Naruto asked curiously. Aren't you going to class? Teeth couldn't help but rolled his eyes. Of course we have classes, the key is why don't you come? Naruto said as a matter of course. I've already previewed everything I need to study this semester. Naruto's words left everyone speechless. However, it still shocked them. Because it is really hard for them to imagine when Naruto previewed the learning content. No. Obviously we've been together before, and you didn't see you reading a book at that time? The tooth was puzzled and said, and suddenly his eyes widened. Did you finish all your homework in just one day yesterday? Naruto frowned slightly, and seemed to feel that the teeth were too fussy. As a qualified student, isn't it normal to preview your homework before school starts? As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. Shikamaru said blankly, "So, you previewed before class yesterday?" Naruto nodded as a matter of course, of course. Suddenly, the audience fell silent. It was as if the still button had been pressed. Everyone just stood there, staring at Naruto dumbfounded. This is amazing too. They feel dazzled by various formulas and theorems just by looking at them, but Naruto learned it in less than a day? Even if there is a gap between people, isn't that too big? Sasuke felt the heavy pressure on his shoulders again. Just wait and see. I only need to spend one night to learn it all. Sasuke secretly set a goal for himself in his heart. After being shocked for a while, everyone had to accept this fact. Because the class is about to start, they should go back. Naruto, are you really not going back with us? Said with a puzzled tooth. Although you have studied all the courses, skipping classes is obviously not something a good student should do. Naruto shook his head and said, I just don't want to waste precious time. After all, life is short, so it's natural to spend time on valuable things. Life is short. How old are you? Everyone couldn't help but rolled their eyes and complained silently in their hearts. Shikamaru said with a frown. Then what are you doing now? Are you still training? Naruto shook his head and said, I'm not just training, I have a purpose. Tooth asked immediately. Purpose? What purpose? Isn't training just to become stronger? Although the teeth are rough, they are not rough. Ninja training is naturally for the pursuit of greater strength. Only with strong and comprehensive power can we deal with all kinds of troubles at all times. The others nodded in agreement after hearing Ya's words. At the same time, they set their eyes on Naruto, wondering what Naruto's purpose is. Naruto said with a puzzled face. What else could it serve? To prepare for the Chunin exam, of course. Chunin. What the hell? Everyone looked weird, doubting what they heard. Shikamaru even clicked his ears. Naruto, what did you just say? I didn't catch it. Naruto had to repeat it. I skipped class to train to save precious time to prepare for the Chunin exam in advance. As soon as these words came out, the audience was in an uproar. How old are you? You haven't even graduated from ninja school, not even Genin. What kind of Chunin exam are you preparing for? That's right. Now that I think about the Chunin exam, no matter how you look at it, it's too outrageous. That's right. Even if it's Naruto, you're thinking too far ahead. At least think about it after graduating from ninja school and becoming a genin. I'm only 7 years old and planning to take the public exam. I really think too much. I didn't expect Naruto to be so whimsical. Everyone talked in a hurry, and some even felt that Naruto thought too much. Facing their words, Naruto was not annoyed either. After they almost read what they said, Naruto said seriously. Genin is the cornerstone and the future. Chunin is the ladder, representing the backbone area of Konoha. Jonin, on the other hand, is an elite, and only a few people can hold the position. Chunin is not something you can become if you want to. Not only does it require sufficient strength, but it also requires the ability to judge the situation, strength, etc. There are various factors that need to be considered to become a qualified Chunin. And these are knowledge that cannot be learned in textbooks. Naruto's words stunned everyone immediately. They all stared blankly at Naruto, feeling as if they understood it, but they didn't seem to understand it. Naruto paused and continued. Do you know who is the fastest to be promoted to Chunin's retainer? It's Teacher Kakashi, and Teacher Kakashi became a Chunin at the age of 6. If you want to become an excellent Jonin like Teacher Kakashi, then naturally you have to follow in the footsteps of Teacher Kakashi. Hearing this, the audience was in an uproar again. In the past, they were shocked by all kinds of things Naruto did. But now, they never imagined that Kakashi, who usually looks like a fool, became a Chunin at the age of 6. Even younger than they are now. Sasuke clenched his hands even more. 4 years earlier than Itachi, Ferret became a Chunin, or when he was old. For a long time, Sasuke has always felt that Itachi is the strongest talent in Konoha. But now, Sasuke never expected that Kakashi is even more talented than his big brother. Naruto continued. Do you still think I'm thinking too much about preparing for the Chunin exam in advance? Everyone shook their heads in unison. With Kakashi as a lesson from the past, they actually feel that Naruto's behavior is not exaggerated. It's true that I didn't expect it. Then, they all stayed behind and practiced with Naruto. Then, Iruka, who was preparing for class with the lesson plan, was dumbfounded when he saw the empty classroom. Did I go to the wrong classroom? He took a few steps back and looked up at the class sign beside the door. That's right, did I go wrong? But where did the students go? Puzzled Iruka can only find the missing Naruto and the others. Then they learned from the guard that Naruto hadn't come at all, so they went out to look for Naruto and haven't come back yet. After a tortuous search, Iruka finally found his lost students. However, when Iruka learned the reason why they didn't come to class, he was shocked. Isn't Chunin as long as he performs the task step by step, he will be able to succeed sooner or later? How did it become so important in your mouth? I'm obviously also a Chunin. Why don't I feel how important I am? Seeing that the students could not be persuaded to go back, helpless Iruka can only resort to the last trick. Find third generation. Hokage office. The official business in the morning has not yet been delivered. At this time, the third generation is very comfortable lying on the chair, squinting his eyes and staring at the crystal ball on the table, and let out a strange laugh from his mouth. Although the school has started, there are no third generation courses that need substitutes today. Third generation, who had a good night's sleep yesterday, is in a very good mood. Taking advantage of the official duties in the morning, I quickly smoked a cigarette and was lazy. By the way, look at the lovely ladies and sisters on the street. Hey. Just when third generation watched with gusto. Bang. The door was slammed open, and a figure rushed in panting. The third generation was taken aback, and erased the picture on the crystal ball as fast as he could in his life, and then covered his inner tension with a tense face. What are you doing in a hurry? If you are seen by others, you will think that the village has been attacked. Third generation said in a stiff tone, but tightly held the hands under the table, for fear that someone would find out what he had just done. The person who came in was, of course, Iruka. At this time, Iruka was propping up his knees with his hands, panting heavily, and didn't notice the strangeness of third generation at all. Master third generation, something is wrong. Seeing Iruka like this, third generation breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the fact that I was lazy to watch the young lady during working hours has not been exposed, and my image has been preserved. Third generation coughed lightly and said with a frown. Speak slowly. What made you so flustered? Iruka managed to catch his breath, then raised his head and said in a terrified. Naruto he. Third generation's heart that had just fallen suddenly lifted, and he stood up suddenly from his seat. What happened to Naruto? Iruka said. Naruto, he is actually preparing for the Chunin exam. And everyone in the class is messing around with Naruto. When third generation heard it, he was dumbfounded. Chunin exam? Isn't this Chunin exam still a few months away? And he's only 7 years old, he hasn't graduated from ninja school, he's not even a genin. What Chunin exam is he preparing for? Iruka also said with a bitter face. I also told Naruto these words, but he said that the Chunin exam is very important even if it is necessary to prepare for the exam a few years in advance. In short, I can't say enough about him, I can only leave it to you, third generation. Hearing that, third generation frowned. Huh? What do you mean? Iruka said. I brought Naruto here, and he said he would explain it to you himself. As he spoke, he turned sideways, revealing Naruto standing at the door. When third generation saw it, he suddenly felt his head buzzing. Third generation had a hunch in his heart that Naruto would definitely bring him a big problem this time. However, on the surface, third generation still has to maintain the personality he has always insisted on. Naruto is here. Just now Iruka said that you are preparing for the Chunin exam in advance? Naruto walked in, nodded and said. That's right, Grandpa third generation. The Chunin exam is a very important moment for me who aspires to become an excellent ninja. No matter how much hard work I put in, I think it's worth it. After all, the Chunin exam is not just for the promotion of Chunin, there are more hidden factors in it. So I can't slack off in the slightest. Third generation is dumbfounded. My heart said, why don't I know what hidden factors are there in the Chunin exam? What's the hidden factor you're talking about? Naruto said as a matter of course. Of course it is to show the strength of our Konoha to other ninja villages. Third generation silently nodded. Chunin exams have always been conducted to demonstrate the strength of their own ninja village. Otherwise, as a ninja living in the dark, there is no need to show his strength in front of the public with great fanfare. This is tantamount to telling other ninja villagers about your own information. After all, the battle between ninjas is an intelligence war. The more cards a person exposes, the easier it is for him to be targeted. Therefore, it is actually not a good choice to take the Chunin exam and show your full strength in front of everyone. However, the previous collisions between countries cannot be completely relied on various behaviors in the dark. On the bright side, it also needs the ability to deter other ninja villages. And the Chunin exam was born because of this. Demonstrate the future strength of your own ninja village. At the same time, it is also to kill the future powerhouses of other ninja villages. If that's the case, then you can drain the oil. The third generation nodded. Anyway, whatever Naruto wanted to do, it was very difficult for him to stop him. Moreover, Naruto prepares for the Chunin exam in advance, and he has to wait until he graduates from ninja school to take it. Now Naruto has not even passed the first year, and there are still several years before he graduates from the school. In this way, Naruto is immersed in the preparations, and there should be no time to involute him. There is absolutely no need to rush. However, Naruto shook his head and said, "For such an important matter, I can't do anything by myself." Third generation frowned slightly. The Chunin exam is indeed important, but what do you mean by that? What does it mean to rely on you alone? What's the matter with you here? What are you going to do again? What you up to? Third generation asked puzzledly. Naruto said immediately, "What else can we do? Naturally, we must mobilize the whole village to prepare together." Although the Chunin exam is not comparable to the Spring Festival, it is also a very important day. If other ninja villages look down on you because of imperfect preparations, wouldn't that damage our reputation as Konoha? So, this matter must be done perfectly. We must not let other ninja villages look down on us Konoha. Third generation was dumbfounded again. Although the Chunin exam is important, it is not that important in the end. This is just a process of ninja villages getting to know each other. In many cases, Cloud Shinobi Village and Iwagakure will not even send people to participate. The same is true of other small countries in remote areas. Therefore, the scale and importance of the Chunin exam is not so sky high. This is far from the level that Naruto needs to mobilize the whole village. Etc. What was Naruto thinking in doing this? Thinking about Naruto's operations in the past, third generation felt that Naruto must have other ideas. But third generation couldn't figure out what Naruto's real thoughts were. It's impossible. Naruto really thinks the Chunin exam is very important, right? But when third generation thought about it, Naruto's serious attitude began to waver again. Did Naruto really just think the Chunin exam was something important to be treated as such? Could it be that there is an unknown conspiracy in it? As Hokage, third generation can't help but flash all kinds of intrigues in his mind. Of course, third generation didn't suspect Naruto. What third generation wondered was whether Naruto was influenced by some other people. After all, a while ago Naruto left the village for a long time. Maybe it was during that period that he was influenced by some opinions outside the village. Perhaps the pure celebrity doesn't realize that the words he hears are the words of others with ulterior motives? Immediately, various conspiracies appeared in the mind of third generation. But there is no real evidence, and it is not good to ask Naruto directly. After all, wouldn't it appear that third generation hates Naruto? He already regarded Naruto as his most trusted person. How could Chidai do such a chilling thing? Really can't figure it out. Third generation can only bury all kinds of dark guesses in their hearts. Naruto, get ready first. This matter needs to be discussed carefully. If there is any clue, I will send someone to inform you. Naruto frowned slightly, as if he was not satisfied with third generation's words. But Naruto did not refute on the spot, but nodded and said, "Then I'll go first, Murata." Third generation nodded kindly and said, "Well, let's go." Naruto turned around and left quickly, closing the door by the way. Suddenly only third generation and Iruka were left in the room. Third generation frowned and pondered while smoking a cigarette, completely forgetting that there was another person in the room. Iruka said carefully and softly, "That, Lord Third Generation. Shall I go first?" "Huh? Oh, you're still here." The third generation was stunned, and then said, "Go back to class first, and don't worry about this matter. Anyway, you, a little ninja school teacher, can't manage these things." After speaking, third generation fell into deep thought again. Iruka left lightly, not daring to disturb third generation's thoughts. In this way, third generation's original good mood was disrupted by sudden changes. The good mood naturally disappeared without a trace. Throughout the day, third generation wondered who influenced Naruto, or who wanted to use Naruto to do something. Of course, third generation also thought it was probably Naruto himself. After all, Naruto is not without a criminal record. For the Chinese New Year that just passed, it was because of Naruto that the preparations started so early in advance. For more than a whole month, Konoha was very lively. But the Spring Festival is definitely different from the Chunin exam. Spring Festival is an important and happy festival. The Chunin exam is different, it has other meanings. As a big country, third generation knows that the Chunin exam must not be sloppy. But it definitely doesn't need the fanfare of Naruto either. Back home in the afternoon, third generation doesn't even have the appetite to eat. Just sitting at the door of the room, frowning and staring at the courtyard, smoking dry tobacco in his mouth. The whole person looked very sad. Konohamaru saw it and was immediately very curious. "Grandpa, what happened? Your brows are frowning." Third generation came back to his senses, shook his head and said, "It's nothing, it's not something you need to worry about, Konohamaru." Konohamaru pursed his lips, and he heard the perfunctory attitude in third generation's mouth. Even when third generation was talking, he didn't turn his head to look at him. This frustrates Konohamaru a bit. But Konohamaru also knows that the third generation is usually very busy, and he can't let his emotions interfere with the third generation. At this time, a large hand rested on Konohamaru's head. Konohamaru looked up and saw Asuma uncle smoking a cigarette. Asuma rubbed Konohamaru's hair, then looked at the master and asked, "What's the matter? Did something happen? Why are you so sad?" Third generation turned his head and glanced at Asuma, then took a deep breath, and then let out a long puff of thick smoke. Alas. Not because of Naruto. Asuma's body trembled, and the name Naruto caused him a stress reaction. But Asuma quickly adjusted and put on a nonchalant look. As everyone knows, Konohamaru sees Asuma's state clearly. It's just that Konohamaru is still too young to understand what happened to Asuma just now. Konohamaru just thought Asuma was just weird. Asuma pretended to be indifferent, but actually asked very nervously, "Naruto? What's wrong with him?" Third generation frowned, turned to stare at Asuma and said, "Naruto would cause trouble without you. HMPH. Asuma was bored and could only curl her lips helplessly. Third generation snorted coldly, but after thinking about it, he still told what happened today. Mainly trying to get other ideas from Asuma. However, after listening, Asuma and Konohamaru opened their mouths in shock. That posture seemed to dislocate the mouth, and even the eyes of the throat were clearly visible. After a while, Asuma finally came to his senses, swallowed hard and said, "You mean, Naruto wants the whole village to gather for the Chunin exam?" Third generation nodded helplessly. Asuma said immediately, "There must be a conspiracy here. This is exactly the concern of third generation. It's something that third generation has been thinking about all day. Unfortunately, after thinking for so long, third generation didn't get an accurate idea. Who in the end may influence Naruto and make Naruto do this kind of thing?" Third generation pondered in silence, while Asuma chattered. "If there is no conspiracy, there is no reason and no need to mobilize everyone in the village for a mere Chunin exam. Besides, the Chunin exam has nothing to do with those ordinary people. At most, they will watch as spectators in the final duel game. Naruto must have been influenced by people with ulterior motives. Did Anbu find out? Didn't you arrange for Anbu to follow Naruto?" Third generation shook his head and said, "Anbu is indeed there, but when Naruto went to find Tsunade a while ago, Anbu was not with him. If I met someone or heard something at that time, it would be out of my control." As soon as Asuma heard that, he immediately patted his thigh and said, "It must be. Someone must have said something over Naruto. There must be a conspiracy of people with malicious intentions." Third generation shook his head and said, "There is no conclusion yet, so don't talk about it casually." Paused for a while, our third generation pondered for a while, then got up and said, "I'll go out for a while, and I'll leave the cause of the trouble to you." When Asuma heard this, her face immediately turned down. Originally, Asuma also prepared 2 movie tickets and wanted to invite Yuhihong to go to the movies together. As a result, it now seems that this idea can only be the collapse of the middle way. After all, the third generation is out, and only Asuma can take care of the young Konohamaru at home. Really, wouldn't it be better to just ask Naruto about this kind of thing? Ask him who he has contacted outside the village, wouldn't it be easy to solve it? Asuma shook her head helplessly. But the figure of third generation did not stop. Immersed in various speculations in their hearts, third generation didn't look back, or they didn't hear Asuma's words at all. Get out of the house. Third generation said immediately. Go and tell Danzo and the two advisors to come to the small conference room immediately and prepare for the meeting. After speaking, Bento headed towards the Hokage building. Soon, third generation came to a small conference room. Although the conference room is small, there are not many people who can enter it. At this time, several old partners from third generation hadn't arrived yet, and the meeting room seemed a bit empty. Third generation silently came to the main seat and sat down, then smoked and worried. Not long after, a person walked in first. The person who came was staggering, with many burn marks on his body. Even though he was wrapped in bandages, the scars could be seen through the edges. It was Danzo. At this moment, Danzo's body smelled strongly of medicine, and he looked extremely sluggish. His face was as pale as snow, and his eyes were in a trance, as if he could fall down at any time. There was also a trace of bloodline oozing from the freshly wrapped bandage, but Danzo didn't notice it, and the whole person seemed to have become a complete useless person. When third generation saw it, he was shocked. It's been a long time since I saw you. How did Danzo look like this? What have you been doing lately? Why do you look so bad? Third generation looked at Danzo suspiciously, wondering what the hell Danzo was doing. After Danzo sat down with difficulty, he looked up in confusion and saw third generation. After a few seconds, the group said unresponsively. It's nothing, it's just that I didn't cook carefully. The doubts of the third generation deepened. Not even a reasonable lie. What kind of person are you guys, can I not know? I'm afraid you haven't even been in the kitchen. Also cook. Pooh. You must be doing something shady behind your back. Third generation secretly thought about what kind of experiment Danzo was doing with people, but quickly gave up. Now the most important thing is Naruto's side. More about Danzo later. Then, two consultants came together. Mitokado Homura asked as he opened the door. Hiruzen, why did you call us here at this time? Can't we talk about it tomorrow? Mitokado Homura's attitude is not bad. But Udatane Kaharu's attitude is very bad. Come in and yell. Hasn't that damned villain been found yet? Someone from the Uchiha clan must have done it. Hiruzen, you must help me get justice for this matter. The head of the third generation is one head with two big heads. Recently Udatane Kaharu has been troubling third generation about her arm. From time to time, I said that I would go to the Uchiha tribe to investigate clearly. But can third generation do this kind of thing? Uchiha has just shown that he can compete with the village. At this time, if you go to fight against Uchiha, isn't that the old birthday star hanged himself, is it too long? Well, there is no definite evidence that people from Uchiha did it. I can't do anything that would damage Hokage's reputation on your own terms. Snort. Danzo snorted coldly. You're still too weak, Hiruzen. After a short rest, Danzo recovered a bit of his old spirit. Hearing the words of third generation, Danzo subconsciously started to get angry. Hearing this, third generation was furious. I'm weak. Do you know the huge change that happened to Uchiha when you curled up and did something shady? The current Uchiha is completely different from the previous Uchiha. They have a dozen pairs of Mangekyo Sharingan. As far as your route is concerned, you can't even see a splash of water when you rush up. After taking several deep breaths, third generation calmed down his angry heart. Mitokado Homura said at this time, so why did you come to us today? You must have something urgent to come to us at this time, right? The third generation came back to their senses, and when they thought of the reason for summoning them, they suddenly showed a wry smile. I called you here this time because of that child Naruto. Danzo's eyes lit up. Hiruzen, have you finally figured it out? As long as you hand him over to me, I will definitely leave Konoha with a top-level combat power that can deter other ninja villages for hundreds of years. It is also the strongest pillar for me to become Hokage. The fire of Danzo's ambition burns brightly. Third generation's eyes froze for a moment. Don't even think about it. As long as I'm still in office, as long as I see your hand touch Naruto, I'll make you go all the way. Don't forget, if the things you have done are exposed, there will be no place for you in the village anymore. When Danzo heard this, he became short of breath. When he did those things back then, you all acquiesced. As a result, he turned his face and refused to recognize anyone now? Rao Danzo felt that his skin was thick enough, but he didn't expect third generation skin to be as thick as a city wall. HMPH. It's Naruto again. Udatane Kaharu said with an embarrassed face. Because of him last time, the whole village started to prepare for the spring festival in advance, making the village chaotic. It's impossible to properly investigate the villains who attacked me. Now he wants to do something again. Mitokado Homura didn't speak, just watched third generation silently. The third generation sighed and said, Naruto, he is preparing for the Chunin exam in advance. Mitokado Homura was taken aback, but isn't he a student now? And this kind of thing, is it worth your time to call us over? Danzo and Udatane Kaharu also looked at Hiruzen with uneasy faces. It seems that if they don't give a suitable answer, they won't let it go. Third generation calmly took a puff of the pipe, and then said with a smoke ring. The key is that Naruto thinks the Chunin exam is very important, and thinks it is a good opportunity for the ancient villages to show the potential of Konoha. Danzo interrupted third generation. This is the purpose of the Chunin exam, and it also includes the opportunity to kill good seedlings from other ninja villages in their cradles. Naruto was right about that. Third generation was interrupted, not annoyed at all. He waited for Danzo to finish speaking before speaking slowly. But Naruto wants to mobilize the whole village. This is impossible. Udatane Kaharu shouted immediately. Who does he think he is? He wants to mobilize the whole village. Can the whole village follow him? Mitokado Homura and Danzo have their eyes on third generation, and they clearly agree with Udatane Kaharu. The third generation sighed and said, You don't seem to realize the seriousness of the problem? I don't care if Naruto wants to mobilize the whole village to participate, although it is also very important. But what I'm more worried about is whether there will be someone with a heart behind them who will add fuel to the flames. If the whole village is mobilized, Konoha village will inevitably become a mixed bag and very chaotic. At this time, it must be the best time for espionage operations by various countries. I'm very worried, is Naruto being used by someone with a heart? Hearing the words of third generation, the other three were also silent. Although the possibility is not impossible, but if you think about it carefully, it is indeed not impossible. Danzo spoke slowly. Hiruzen, just put Naruto. I said it was impossible. Third generation looked at Danzo with cold eyes. Don't force me. Danzo said no more, although third generation has always had a good temper. But it doesn't mean that third generation will always be good-tempered. If he really gets anxious, Med-AI will recklessly reveal all the things Danzo has done. Even if third generation's reputation suffers some damage, Danzo is completely finished. Just getting Orochimaru to study wood style is enough to make him a traitor to the village. After all, the people in the village thought that Sheng was Orochimaru himself. It never occurred to them that Danzo was actually behind the scenes. So what are you going to do? Udatane Kaharu angrily patted the table with his remaining palm. It's been so long, and I still haven't figured out who the villain who attacked me is. At this juncture, do you want to do something with that bastard Naruto for the Chunin exam? Mitokado Homura said with a frown at this time. By the way, even if Naruto mobilized the whole village to prepare for the Chunin exam. But doesn't he have to wait until he graduates from the ninja school before he can participate? If this is the case, does the Chunin exam every year have to go through this kind of hardship? As soon as these words came out, third generation's face suddenly changed. No. This matter can't be decided. Just thinking about how much it will cost to mobilize the whole village to prepare for the Chunin exam makes third generation's head swell. If we have to do this every year, third generation thinks that if they can't do it for a few years, they will abdicate early due to physical and mental exhaustion. If this continues, there will be no peace in the village. There must be a way to stop Naruto. Third generation frowned in thought. Danzo felt that the timing was good, and said, Hiruzen, put. Third generation suddenly turned his head and looked at Danzo with cold eyes. The meaning is very clear. Shut up, or take the blame and become a major sinner in Konoha village. Danzo closed his mouth knowingly, the anger in his heart almost rushed out of his body. Sooner or later, I will take the position of Hokage and let you see who is the most suitable person to be Hokage. Watching Danzo deflated, Mitaguchi and Udatane Kaharu didn't speak. The two looked at the frowning third generation, waiting for an answer. After pondering for a long time, third generation said with a sigh. For the peace of the village, I can only make the following decision. When the three of them heard this, their spirits were shaken, and they waited for third generation's next words. Third generation paused for a moment, then said helplessly. I decided to hold the Chunin exam in advance and let Naruto and Naruto's class all participate. In this way, as long as Naruto passes the exam, there is no need to worry about similar things happening in the future. As for the possibility of failing the Naruto exam, with several of them present, it was obviously impossible for Naruto not to pass. Even if the rolled noodles are 0, they can give it to Naruto. Although the two consultants and Danzo were very dissatisfied because of the Naruto incident, there was a lot of trouble. But they thought about it carefully and found that if they didn't deal with it like this, the situation might be out of their control. If calculated according to the normal Chunin examination time, there are still a few months. So long for Naruto to go free. Just imagining it for a while, the three of them couldn't help but shiver. It is really that Naruto has done too many shocking things, so that they have to realize what kind of huge loss they will cause if Naruto is left alone. So, third generation's proposal is very reasonable. That is to start the Chunin exam quickly and then end it quickly before Naruto makes a big noise. This avoids loss maximization. Really, to waste precious manpower and material resources to prepare these insignificant things several months in advance. Obviously catching the villain who cut off my arm is the most important thing. If you can't catch it for a long time, it will make Yi feel ashamed. Only Udatain Kaharu shouted indignantly. But the other three had already made their decision, and naturally Udatain Kaharu's opinion didn't need to be consulted. Third generation looked at Danzo and Mitokado Homura, but did not look at Udatain Kaharu, who had a dark complexion. After finding that they had no objections, he nodded slowly and said, "Since you all agree with me, then this matter is settled." After making a decision, third generation did not feel easy. Because third generation always believes that there must be shadows of other ninja spies behind Naruto's actions. As for whether it is to muddy the water to fish in troubled waters, or has other purposes, we can only wait until the Chunin exam to talk about it. After the impromptu meeting, third generation returned home without a good night's sleep. The whole thing kept running through his mind, and he couldn't sleep. So the next day, third generation came to the Hokage building with heavy dark circles under their eyes. "Someone, go and call Naruto over." After arriving at the office, the first thing that third generation rarely did was not fishing, but sending someone to notify Naruto directly. Soon, Anbu found Naruto in the practice field. "Grandpa third generation, are you looking for me?" Naruto, who was notified, naturally knew why the third generation was looking for him, but he still asked curiously. Seeing the innocent look on Naruto's face, third generation immediately dissipated a little doubt in his heart. Naruto is such a serious child. Maybe he just really thinks that the Chunin exam is very important, rather than being preached by caring people. Maybe I am worrying too much. Third generation thought to himself, with a professional and gentle smile on his face. "Naruto, I'm looking for you today for nothing else but the Chunin exam you mentioned yesterday. I think, Naruto, you are strong enough to take this Chunin exam. Not only you, but all the students in your class are strong enough. All this is because you played a leading role. As Hokage, I deeply sigh that Konoha has you young backs, and Konoha is the biggest. Luck. So, I specifically approve that you can take this Chunin exam. As for whether you decide to take it, you can decide for yourself. Moreover, I am going to advance the time and let you, the pillars of Konoha, show up in other countries as soon as possible, so that they can understand why our Konoha can be one of the 5 Yamato." After saying these words in one breath, third generation looked at Naruto with a smile on his face. Third generation knew that Naruto, who was eagerly preparing for the Chunin exam, would be very happy when he heard the news. And the result was as expected by third generation. A happy smile appeared on Naruto's face. However, Naruto's words froze the smile on third generation's face. "Since the Chunin exam is coming earlier, let's start." Third generation's expression was stagnant, with deep doubts in his eyes. "Start what?" Naruto looked at third generation with a puzzled face, as if wondering why third generation would ask such unlevel words. "Of course I'm preparing for the Chunin exam. Since the exam has been advanced, our preparations need to be advanced as well. By the way, Grandpa third generation, what is the specific process of the exam? I need to know these." After that, the group began to prepare. Third generation shook his head helplessly. "Naruto, are you in too much of a hurry? Even if it's earlier, it won't start now, right?" Third generation just said something casually, but Naruto retorted seriously. "How can it be considered anxious? I'm also doing this for the image of our Konoha. Otherwise, if it is held too hastily, there will only be various loopholes. These loopholes will show our Konoha's unprofessionalism in the eyes of other ninja villages. At that time, Konoha's face will be lost. Hearing Naruto's words, third generation's expression became solemn. Indeed, anything can be lost, but Konoha's face cannot be lost. Especially when I'm still here. Thinking of this, third generation's face became serious. You're right, I lacked consideration. Naruto shook his head and said modestly. It's just that Grandpa third generation is usually too busy to take care of these little things. Grandpa third generation usually remembers to pay more attention to rest. The body is still the most important thing. When third generation heard it, my heart felt warm, but at the same time I felt a little speechless. Who am I so busy for? Who raised the difficulty of patrolling the streets? Who found me a substitute task to teach students mathematics, physics and chemistry? Who is making all kinds of big movements and noises to disturb people's peace? Don't worry, my body is fine. Third generation lowered its head to look through the previous Chunin exam project proposals, and secretly rolled its eyes when Naruto couldn't see it. After searching for a long time, I finally found the Chunin exam project book in the drawer, and said. Of course, each Chunin test item will be different, and the invigilator will always change. So each Chunin test item is different, but the general direction is about the same. After all, the qualities required to advance to Chunin are fixed. Clearing his throat, third generation said while holding a piece of paper called a project book. The exam is divided into 3 rounds. The third round is divided into preliminaries and main rounds, so strictly speaking, there are 4 rounds. The first round is mainly a competition, testing Genin's observation ability and basic knowledge, or the ability to collect information. As a ninja, collecting information through observation is a very important indicator. The second game is to complete the assigned tasks in a difficult environment, which is also the main job of our ninjas. The third preliminaries are to show your own strength and judgment when facing the enemy, and you can use all the advantages you can use to defeat the opponent. The purpose of the third main match is the same as that of the preliminaries, but the main match will be held under the watchful eyes of daimyo and ministers. This is also a good opportunity to show the strength of Ninja Village. After finishing speaking, third generation looked at Naruto with a gentle smile on his face. There are 4 exams in total, and the content of each exam is different, but they all increase step by step according to the importance. If you can't even pass the most basic information collection, you will naturally be ineligible for promotion. And the information collection is passed, but the task cannot be completed, and naturally it cannot be reset. In the end, it is the battle with other candidates, which tests the strength of the candidates and their judgment when facing the enemy. These few exams cover almost all the necessary conditions that a ninja needs. From third generation's point of view, this is the perfect test program. Sure enough, my idea was perfect. Then, third generation looked up and saw Naruto frowning. Seeing third generation pause, Naruto asked in confusion. That's it. Third generation was taken aback. These are enough to eliminate most of the players. Naruto immediately shook his head and said, it's not enough, there's so much that hasn't been taken into account. As a Chunin who is good enough, he must be a grandmaster in morality, intelligence, physique, art and labor. Otherwise how can we protect our village? It's hard to see whether a person is suitable for promotion to Chunin based on these items alone. So, I think some items need to be added. Third generation is dumbfounded. Do you want to add a project? And not one but some? What do you want to do then? Under third generation's bewildered expression, Naruto started counting with his fingers. First of all, it is about the competition. If it is just one game, it is completely impossible to summarize all the qualified qualities of an excellent ninja. As you said, Grandpa third generation, the ability to collect information is very important, but the ability to distinguish information is also very important. So, Chinese must be added. Third generation looked up blankly. Chinese? Is Chinese necessary? When hearing Naruto talk about the competition, third generation subconsciously thought of the mathematics, physics and chemistry that Naruto promoted in school. Unexpectedly, the first one turned out to be Chinese. Do I still need to take the language test? Who still can't read the text? Naruto said seriously immediately. Of course it is necessary. Chinese is the basic of the basics. If the language is not good, and you don't even know the code, can this be considered a qualified ninja? What if there are deeper hidden strings hidden in the hidden strings? Also, if you intercept the enemy's code, you must distinguish whether the code is true or not, right? After all, it may be a smoke bomb released by the enemy. If the language is not good, can you tell the difference? Number. So, Chinese is the foundation of the foundation, and it is also the most important one. Third generation nodded again and again, and the expression on his face became serious. What Naruto said is true. I was too negligent. What a shame. Chinese language needs to be added, but how to test it? Naruto said immediately. Nature is reading comprehension. Reading comprehension can fully demonstrate everyone's ability to process information. The examiner can also use this to judge whether the candidate's thinking direction is qualified or unqualified. As an excellent ninja, it is natural to find the most correct answer among various language traps. The third generation nodded repeatedly, and even kept writing in the Chunin exam project book. After listening to Naruto's words, third generation discovered that the seemingly simple language hides so many tricks. Naruto continued. Chinese is the first item, followed by mathematics. When third generation heard this, he immediately stopped what he was doing. Mathematics? What do ninjas do math? They don't need to calculate too complicated things. Naruto didn't like to hear that. He raised his voice and said aloud. Why not? The battle game between ninjas is a complicated math problem. Which move can solve the opponent? What angle is the most suitable to attack? It is the best choice to cooperate with several ninjutsu and so on. These are all complicated calculations. These all need to use the basic knowledge of mathematics. So, mathematics is also very necessary. After listening to it, third generation felt that it made sense, so they added the item of mathematics. Then looked up at Naruto. Third generation knows that since mathematics has come out, physics and chemistry must not escape. Really? Naruto continued snapping fingers. After mathematics comes physics. Physics is also the most important. How to achieve the most ideal results with the smallest force is the ability that an excellent ninja must master. It's like the shuriken technique we learned. Through ingenious collisions, it can even make kunai hit targets that are invisible in the field of vision. These all require precise calculations, such as how much force to use, what angle to launch, and where to collide to change direction. Third generation silently wrote down. Naruto continues. Chemistry is also important. After all, it's about things like poison. Although I, Konoha Shinobi, am upright and will not actively use toxins, we must understand toxins so that we can make the most correct judgment at the first time, so that we can save ourselves if we are poisoned on the battlefield. Especially when facing the puppet masters in Sand Shinobi Village, learn to distinguish the toxins, and treating the toxins is equivalent to pulling out a sharp blade of the puppeteer masters. These should be enough, right? Third generation thought silently. These are also the content that third generation usually prepares lessons silently at night. After Naruto proposed mathematics, third generation knew that physical chemistry must not escape. In this case, a written test will be divided into 4 sessions. Now the whole Chunin exam time will be extended a lot. Third generation thought with some headaches. The longer the Chunin exam lasts, the more error-prone it is. This time Naruto intends to do it with great fanfare, and he can't go wrong. Otherwise, everyone will definitely not blame Naruto who is still a child, but will throw the responsibility on third generation who is Hokage. That's all for the written test. Do you have any comments for the next one? Third generation put down the project plan and looked up to ask. Then third generation saw Naruto's strange expression. Suddenly, an ominous premonition rose in third generation's heart. Where is this going? Naruto waved his hand and said. It's all said that morality, intelligence, physical education, art and labor are all-round development, but it's definitely not enough to rely on Chinese, mathematics, physics and chemistry. In order to become a high-quality ninja, in order to demonstrate our position as the leader of the 5 major ninja villages in Konoha, it is natural to develop in an all-round way. So, of course, the temperament is also tested. With temperament, natural art cannot be left behind. Besides, after adding more than a dozen items, the dizzy third generation raised his head tremblingly and asked. Is it gone now? After this set, third generation can't believe that someone will be able to pass. But it's okay if you fail all of them, so that the Chunin exam can end early. They can operate in secret to let Naruto pass the exam alone. This not only solves the situation that Naruto will make the whole village uneasy, but also prevents the possibility of people with evil intentions in the village as soon as possible. It's a plan that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. In an instant, the spirit of third generation came up again. Although there will definitely be some criticism afterwards, as long as you can survive this time, you don't need to worry so much about the subsequent Chunin exam. Third generation. Full of hope, third generation looked up and saw Naruto shaking his head. Suddenly, third generation's heart skipped a beat. Isn't it? Is there any more? Farewell? Naruto shook his head and said. All the content of the written test is only in the category of Subject 1. The next thing is Subject 2, and there is only one main purpose of Subject 2, and that is practice. At the same time, it is also the body of morality, intelligence, body, beauty and labor. It's mainly to test the foundation of the candidates. If you don't even meet the basic standards, then naturally there is no need to be promoted to Chunin. Third generation felt relieved, at least this was within the normal range. But thinking about the foundation proposed by Naruto at that time, third generation's heart raised again. Then, what standard do you think is better for customization? Naruto bowed his head and counted his fingers. Basic 3 body technique, as well as concealed weapon throwing technique, dodge technique, etc. These naturally require a grandmaster. Third generation is really relieved now. Fortunately, at least Naruto did not make outrageous requirements for a level ninjutsu such as Grandmaster Rasengan. You know, even in Konoha, most of the Chunin don't know a level ninjutsu. In addition to the fact that they don't have many channels to get in touch with a level ninjutsu, talent is also a major obstacle blocking them. Not everyone can pass Grandmaster any ninjutsu in a short time like Naruto. Most ninjas need a lot of time to learn a difficult ninjutsu. After that, do you have any good suggestions? Third generation looked at Naruto, thinking that it should be gone now? After all, mathematics, physics and chemistry have already been proposed, and there is nothing to add in the future. Naruto pondered for a moment, then said, the third project, entering the dangerous area to perform the designated task, if it is only environmental factors and other candidates as opponents, it may not be in line with the actual situation. After all, in real situations, we may not necessarily face people who are as powerful as us, but enemies who are stronger than us. So I propose that it is best to send Anbu to carry out random assassinations, and only those who successfully complete the mission under Anbu's assassination can be promoted. Third generation was stunned, then thought of a possibility, and asked carefully. Naruto, when you say assassination, don't you mean real assassination? Naruto nodded. Of course it's a real assassination, and only when faced with the threat of death will they exert their full strength. Third generation asked quickly, but what if they can't beat Anbu? Naruto shook his head regretfully and said, then we can only accept their fate. Accept the shit. Third generation roared in his heart, and he stood up straight away. It won't work. Absolutely not. Even without prior notice, Anbu must not be allowed to kill the examinee. Otherwise, Konoha will become the target of public criticism and be attacked by everyone. After all, other ninja villages sent their genin here to take the exam, not to be slaughtered by Anbu here. Killing is absolutely not allowed. Naruto also wanted to emphasize the importance of being there. But on this matter, third generation is determined, no matter what Naruto says, they don't agree. In desperation, Naruto can only lower the requirements. Then as long as the Anbu's ability to move is controlled, it will be considered eliminated. As soon as third generation heard, this condition is okay. At least it's much better than direct killing. Although third generation would like to take this opportunity to eradicate other ninja villages, especially the top genin of the 5 ninja villages. But the third generation knew that it was impossible to really do this after thinking about it. Next Naruto went on to the next project. Those who have successfully completed Subject 3 can start the test of Subject 4 directly at the place where the task of Subject 3 is completed. The content of the exam should be one-on-one. Dedicate all of yourself in the battle, and show all you have learned. As for Subject 5, we need to wait for some time until the daimyo and the others are in place before officially starting. Subject 5 needs to fight in public, which is the biggest opportunity to show the strength of the village. Don't worry, Grandpa third generation. I will definitely try my best to live up to your expectations. Third generation nodded blankly. At this time, the spirit of third generation is still a little confused. It is really Naruto's previous operation that directly confused third generation. By the time third generation regained consciousness, Naruto was no longer in the office. Well, with a long sigh, third generation only felt that his heart was so tired. It was just a simple Chunin exam. How did it become like this now? Based on the content of the written test prepared by Naruto, third generation doesn't even look at, so someone can pass all of them. From the perspective of third generation, at least 95% of the candidates will pass the test at the 10th meter. Because of these written exams, even the third generation is not confident to pass. It's not that the third generation is modest, but because the third generation is studying, so they understand better how difficult the content of these written tests is. Go and inform the Jonin in the village that all Jonins will go to the meeting room tomorrow morning, except for those who cannot come back from an urgent mission. An Anbu appeared immediately, bowed his head in promise, and then disappeared in place in an instant. Oh, I don't know if something will happen to the Chunin exam this time? Third generation turned and looked out the window worriedly. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, third generation saw Naruto walking on the street at a glance. Looking at the direction Naruto left, it seemed that he was heading towards the practice field outside the village. After all, Naruto is so enthusiastic about the Chunin exam, and with third generation's understanding of Naruto's diligence, there has been no disturbance to this kind of thing. Everything has to be discussed with the Jonin tomorrow, and then start preparing for the Chunin exam. But as for whom to invite, third generation doesn't have a good idea yet. Third generation tends to directly find genin from some small villages. Faced with Naruto's written test content, these ninjas from small villages will definitely be eliminated on the spot. After a day of convening, even some Jonin who were out on missions quickly completed their missions and returned to the village. Except for a few Jonin who couldn't make it back, most of the Konoha Jonin gathered in a large office in the Hokage building. This is also where the daily Jonin meet. Naturally, Nara Shikahisa, the office manager, is also there. Because the third generation did not explain the situation when they convened, the merchants were very curious and anxious at this time. I'm afraid that something bad will happen in the village. After all, a major event happened years ago, such as Uchiha Itachi's attack on the Uchiha clan's land and his defection. While most of the Jonin don't know exactly what's going on, they can be sure that things are far from simple. Also, relations between Uchiha and the village have eased, but are limited. From the fact that there is no one around Uchiha Fugaku, it can be seen that Uchiha is in a state of being connected. Master Luju, what happened? Aburame Jawei came to Nara Luju, who was resting with his eyes closed, and asked in a low voice. Nara Shikajiu opened his eyes, and saw that most of the Jonin were focusing on them. Obviously, everyone is very curious, except for a few people. Nara looked around for a long time, and then said with a sigh. I don't know either. Master Hokage called this time very suddenly. I went to see him yesterday, but he just said that he will explain in detail after we are all here. However, judging from Hokage-sama's worried expression, this matter may not be trivial. These words made everyone present become serious. In this case, it is impossible for Nara to lie, at most there will be some deviations. But being able to clearly let Nara Luju observe the worry of the third generation has already made the Jonins present understand that things are not simple. For a moment, the Jonins were all prepared for something bad. And Asuma, the only one who knew about it among the Jonin present, also looked worried. Some people gathered together and began to discuss in low voices. Is it going to start a war? Someone said with a worried face. War is a taboo word for every ninja. On the battlefield, even someone as strong as Hokage may die. They Jonin, on that meat grinder, also had a hard time surviving. Impossible. If war is really going to happen, we have no reason not to know. Another flatly rebutted. Others chimed in. That's right, it's impossible for us not to hear about such a big event. It must be something else, maybe related to the Uchiha incident years ago. Hush. Keep your voice down. Do you want to die? Well, if it wasn't war, what would it be? Is Master Hokage planning to abdicate? But who will be the next Hokage? It might be Uchiha Fugaku. After all, the current Uchiha's strength is extraordinary, but the strength of those little ghosts who suddenly appeared is simply terrifying. I don't know how the Uchiha clan cultivated them. You don't even know? Those brats were actually raised by Uzumaki Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto? 49 Tails Jinchuriki. But he's only been in Jonin school for less than a year, right? That's right. And not only the kid from the Uchiha clan and Uzumaki Naruto's 10th class students are all comparable in strength to Jonin, even Uzumaki Naruto even defeated the Tenin of the Lord's Day head-on. The whole Konoha knows about this, why don't you know? I have carried out a long-term mission before, and I just came back recently. Can you explain this matter in detail? I don't know the specifics. There was constant noise in the office. However, a few people seemed very silent. Uchiha Fugaku with eyes closed. Kakashi, who looked at the girl by Jia attentively. The gathered Ino Shika Cho trio, and other ninja chiefs. None of them participated in the discussion, but waited silently. Because they know that no amount of discussion is useless. As a ninja, all you need to do is to obey orders and complete tasks. At this time, Someone finally saw Asuma in the corner. So he leaned forward and asked, "Master Asuma, do you know some clues?" Asuma sighed and said without looking at the man, "You'll know when Daddy comes." This is tantamount to saying that Asuma knows the situation. And seeing the way Asuma sighed, this matter is really not a good thing. At this moment, a little panic grew in everyone's hearts. Just then, the door of the conference room was opened. The third generation in Hokage robes appears at the door. "It's all here." Seeing that everyone was here, third generation had a smile on his face. Seeing the face of third generation, Yinjia's restless heart gradually stabilized. Since third generation can laugh, it means that things are not too bad to deal with. Third generation calmly walked to the main seat and sat down. Nara Shirju, as the squad leader of Jonin, immediately came and stood behind third generation. All the Jonin set their sights on third generation. Fugaku opened his eyes, and Kakashi also put away the girl by Jia. "Since everyone is here, let me tell you the reason for calling everyone." Third generation took a sip of the pipe to whet everyone's appetite, and then slowly explained the reason for calling everyone. Actually, the purpose of calling everyone here this time is to start the Chunin exam in advance. As soon as these words came out, there was an uproar in the audience. The Jonins looked at each other, not understanding why the Chunin exam should be advanced suddenly. Really not prepared at all. What third generation wants is to be unprepared. Start as fast as you can and finish as fast as you can. At least they can't let Naruto torment them old guys too much. Nara Shikahisa frowned slightly, and asked the question in everyone's mind. "Master Hokage, may I ask the reason for the advance?" Immediately, everyone's ears were pricked up, waiting carefully for third generation's answer. Third generation sighed before speaking. "This matter is related to Naruto." Really? Nara Luju had already guessed in his heart, but he couldn't be sure. Now Nara is confirmed. And not only Nara Shikaku. People like Kakashi, Uchiha Fugaku, Hyuga Hiyashi, etc. all have guesses. After all, there have been no major events in the ninja world recently, and there are no important festivals in the village. Suddenly calling everyone together, the biggest possibility is that Naruto has messed up something again. It's just that their intuition is related to Naruto, but they don't know the specific situation. Now hearing what third generation said, it is obvious that Naruto is planning to move ahead. As everyone knows, the original Naruto planned to start preparations several years in advance. It was third generation who wanted Naruto to graduate early. But they know that others are completely unaware. There was a lot of discussion in the conference room. Why is this Naruto again? What does the early Chunin exam have to do with him? Isn't he still at Jonin school? Could it be that he wants to graduate early and take this Chunin exam? But there's no need to advance the Chunin exam, right? Isn't it better to prepare step by step? Perhaps Hokage-sama has his own considerations, it's better not to speculate casually. Discussions erupted one after another, but soon quieted down. They all set their eyes on third generation, waiting for third generation's next explanation, or the next content. Third generation waited until everyone was quiet before speaking slowly. Although the incident happened suddenly this time, I hope that everyone can help each other and get through this difficult time together. During the Chunin exam, the security in the village must be maintained, and the residence of candidates from other ninja villages must be determined as soon as possible. Also, I will send you the test items later, so you have to look carefully. This exam will probably require all of you to take part. There is no room for negotiation with the words of the third generation. This time Jonin was summoned, just to make an announcement. As for the relationship between this matter and Naruto, why there is a relationship, etc., third generation didn't make it clear. Although the Jonins were curious, they still refrained from asking. Because they are professional ninjas. Third generation looked at the crowd, and then said. This project has changed a lot, and Naruto has given a lot of ideas. First, the written test tuck tuck tuck. A knock on the door interrupted third generation. Third generation frowned slightly. Is there anyone else here? Nara Shikahisa immediately bowed his head and said. The Jonins currently in the village have been summoned, and the Jonin outside the gate should not be the summoned Jonin. Third generation suddenly became curious. It's not Jonin. Why did you come to this meeting room? Could it be Danzo? With a hint of doubt, third generation said. Come in. The door was pushed open, and it was Naruto who appeared outside the door. Seeing Naruto, third generation's heart skipped a beat. At this time, Naruto appeared, which was not a good thing for third generation. Naruto was also taken aback when he saw the Jonin in the room. Of course Naruto is pretending. Knowing that the third generation summoned Jonin and could already foresee that many Jonins would appear, Naruto naturally couldn't be surprised. But Naruto was not one of those called, and should not have known that there were so many Jonin here. Naruto came here only through asking Anbu, who watched him along the way. Even Naruto's knowledge had already told him the location of third generation. But surface work still needs to be done. Hello seniors. Naruto said modestly. Those Jonin who had never seen Naruto looked at Naruto curiously. But Kakashi and those Jonin who are already familiar with Naruto frowned slightly, full of worry in their hearts. It is true that I was scared by Naruto. I'm afraid that Naruto will make another violent operation. Only Uchiha Fugaku looked at Naruto as he looked at his own son. No, Naruto is his unrelated biological son, at least much better than that unfilial son Itachi. What about Naruto? Why are you here? Third generation said kindly. According to common sense, it is impossible for someone like Naruto to come into this meeting room without invitation. After all, this is where most of Konoha's Jonin gather. It can be said that if there is a sudden explosion here, Konoha's overall strength will plummet, and Konoha will be completely removed from the 5 major countries. On such an important occasion, it was impossible for Anbu's people to let anyone get close. But Naruto is clearly not on this list. Not to mention third generation's trust in Naruto. It is the strength displayed by Naruto, which is no longer something Anbu can stop. Moreover, these Anbu have been following the third generation, so they are naturally aware of the third generation's attitude towards Naruto. So, after facing Naruto's inquiry, Anbu brought Naruto here without the slightest psychological burden. Although third generation had a smile on his face, his heart kept trembling. You obviously made an agreement yesterday. Why did you suddenly come to your door again? And this time there are so many people watching. If Naruto asks something embarrassing, then my prestige. Third generation cannot avoid such worries. Naruto scratched his head and said. I forgot to ask yesterday, have the examiners for this Chunin exam been decided? Third generation secretly breathed a sigh of relief. At least this problem is not beyond the scope of third generation to deal with. This time I summoned the Jonin of the village to determine who will take the Chunin exam. Don't worry, it will be no problem to leave this matter to me. Little Naruto, just concentrate on preparing and show my Konoha's demeanor in front of other ninja villages. Don't let other ninja villages underestimate our Konoha. As he said that, third generation blinked his eyes pretending to be playful. I don't even consider my own age, my face is wrinkled and my eyes are blinking. If I change to a darker environment, I'm afraid I can make a child cry at night. Don't worry, I will work hard. Naruto is very confident. But then he looked suspiciously at the Jonins present. However, can such an important duty of examiners really be entrusted to them? I thought it would be Grandpa third generation and his consultants who would be the examiners this time. Third generation was taken aback, immediately felt bad. What nonsense are you kidding? Mitarashi Anko came to Naruto with a frown, and said with his hands on his hips. Do you know that the elites of the village are here? Although your meatballs are very delicious, this is not the reason why you can be forgiven. Apologize to everyone Jonin. Kakashi sighed, not wanting to interfere. Because many of the Jonin present and the special Jonin have the same idea as Mitarashi Anko. After all, they have only heard about Naruto's various achievements, but have not actually seen them. But Kakashi is different. On Naruto's apparent 2 missions, he was led by Kakashi. Kakashi is well aware of how powerful Naruto is. The third generation couldn't stop it in time, and what they said now would obviously confuse the Jonins. That being the case, third generation simply shut up and waited for Naruto to show everyone his strength. Naruto doubts them because Naruto has this strength. Looking up at Mitarashi Anko, Naruto asked suspiciously. Excuse me, are you Senior Mitarashi Anko? I remember that you have visited my shop many times. However, it is well known that you like to eat meatballs, but whether your strength has reached the standard to be an examiner, I think it is still open to discussion. Veins popped up on his forehead. Mitarashi Anko gritted his teeth and looked at Naruto. Good boy, it seems that you don't know the strength of the real Jonin owner. I'll let you have a good eye-opener today. Look. Mitarashi Anko's right hand turned into a black afterimage, followed by several air-shattering sounds. Tuck-tuck. Accompanied by the sound of a sharp knife being inserted into a wooden stake, the 3 kunai were in the exact same position of the door. This speed. This control. This. Well, is this commendable? Naruto looked at Mitarashi Anko's performance and couldn't help being stunned for a moment. It's just too commonplace. The student with the worst shuriken technique in their class can throw about 10 shurikens at a time. So this is Mitarashi Anko, who is a special jonin. Sure enough, it is definitely inappropriate to hand over the examiner to these people. How can the examiner be inferior to the examinee in the project? That's too embarrassing. However, Mitarashi Anko didn't realize the deep suspicion towards her in Naruto's eyes, but said proudly with his arms folded. See? This is Jonin's power. This is a scene that your school can't see. I'm afraid you can't even see my hand clearly? Since this is the case, then don't join forces at will. This is a place for adults to discuss things, not a place for brats like you to come and play. If you understand, apologize quickly, and then leave immediately, don't delay us discussing business matters. Having said that, Mitarashi Anko feels very good. Even she closed her eyes, reveling in it. This kid should have retreated in the face of difficulties, right? But it's okay, after all, I'm Konoha Jonin, and compared to a mere student, I'm really a bully. Mitarashi Anko felt at ease, but after waiting for a while, there was no movement. Mitarashi Anko suddenly opened his eyes curiously. Then, she saw Naruto looking at herself strangely. What are you looking at? Are you shocked? However, Naruto just shook his head and said nothing. Then, Naruto's right hand also turned into a black shadow. And the sound of piercing the sky sounded one after another, the number far exceeded one sound. Mitarashi Anko felt bad. Although I want Naruto to retreat, I have heard a lot of rumors about Naruto. Seeing Naruto's action now, she naturally panicked. Mitarashi Anko turned his head quickly, looking for the hidden weapon released by Naruto. But after a long time, I didn't hear the dull sound of the hidden weapon piercing the woodwork or the wall. Instead, there was a continuous sound of fine metal crashing in midair. Even, Mitarashi Anko heard a beautiful melody from it. Then, there was a series of dull sounds. This represented that the hidden weapon thrown by Naruto finally hit the target. Mitarashi Anko quickly searched for the hidden weapon Naruto threw. And she found it quickly, because Naruto's goal is the same as hers. It's just that Naruto's operation is obviously better than Mitarashi Anko's. Mitarashi Anko made 3 kunai stabs in the same position. However, Naruto's operation has increased the difficulty of this operation by more than one level. On the door, 2 circles appeared, inside and outside, surrounding the 3 kunai thrown by Mitarashi Anko. After this operation, Mitarashi Anko was dumbfounded. It wasn't just her. Those jonins who hadn't seen Naruto's strength with their own eyes all widened their eyes. This strength is really beyond their imagination. And those who have experienced Naruto's strength are watching with cold eyes. Because they know that this is not the limit of Naruto. Third generation said with a smile, Anko, you step back. Anko returned to his original position in a daze, staring in the direction of the door in a daze. Naruto said with a frown, if it is Anko's level of shuriken technique, it may be difficult to be an examiner. I don't know how strong the other ninja village participants are, but any student in our class can throw more than 7 or 8 shurikens at the same time, and hit the target accurately. 3 is true is a little too little. Then, Naruto looked at Mitarashi Anko. Perhaps Anko Senpai is not good at shuriken technique, so if Anko Senpai wants to participate, he can only choose other events. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing for the examiner to be inferior to the examinee. It's not just our Konoha ninjas who take the Chunin exam, but also people from other ninja villages. If this scene falls into the eyes of those people, I'm afraid we will become a joke. If these words are spoken from third generation, they will definitely be convincing. Anyway, the third generation is Hokage, the de facto leader of Konoha village. But now it was Naruto, who looked like a child, who said those words. This made everyone unacceptable. If I hadn't just seen Naruto's magical shuriken technique, I'm afraid there would have been various voices coming out. As for them not coming out, it is also because they don't want to be Mitarashi Anko's second. After all, it is better to avoid this kind of embarrassment in front of everyone. As for Mitarashi Anko, I am afraid that it is deeply remembered by those present. As for the reason to remember, it is naturally how good Mitarashi Anko's shuriken technique is. Although compared with the technology displayed by Naruto, everyone present is a dish. But there are still differences between dishes and dishes. After all, in the eyes of the king, Baijin is a vegetable, Baiinuensai. But there is still some gap between Baijin and silver. Third generation nodded and said, don't worry, just leave it to me, don't you worry about my mother? Third generation now only hopes that Naruto will leave quickly and stop giving him any more problems. But Naruto obviously has no intention of leaving. For Grandpa third generation, I am naturally relieved. But I forgot to mention the examiner's standards before, so I will talk about this standard while everyone is here. Third generation thumped, feeling something was wrong in his heart. However, it was too late. After Naruto glanced around, he took out a handful of test papers and said, "Nyen, the seniors have not been exposed to these subjects, so I will lower the standard a little bit. As long as you score more than 50 points in each subject, you will be considered qualified. Otherwise, it would be difficult for me to agree with you as examiners." As he said that, Naruto threw it vigorously, and countless test papers flew in the sky above the conference room. Then, under Naruto's control, these trials fell into the hands of each Jonin with great precision. Everyone looked at the test paper in their hands in bewilderment. Even the third generation has a copy. Then, they looked at the complicated test questions on the test paper, their eyes straightened. What are these? Why do I know every word, but I can't understand it like a heavenly book after connecting them together? Everyone is dumbfounded. Only the third generation is very lucky. Fortunately, it is the knowledge I have learned. Third generation sighed, but he didn't expect the abnormality of the test paper appearing in his hands. After all, the third generation is not an examiner, and there is no need to take an exam at all. Nor did Naruto expect the Jonins to be able to solve the puzzles on the spot. The difficulty of the test paper is similar to that in the hands of the seniors, and the seniors can use it to learn relevant knowledge. After a while, I will continue to distribute test papers to everyone. As I said just now, if you can't even reach 50 points, it would be too embarrassing for Konoha. I hope all Jonin seniors can take this matter to heart. After all, the Chunin exam is for people from other ninja villages. You must not let other ninja villages see our Konoha jokes. When everyone heard it, they immediately focused their attention on third generation. After all, the third generation is Hokage, and giving orders should be what Hokage should do. Although Naruto has a good reputation, it is more in the folk. Among Konoha's current major ninja clans, the only Uchiha clan that has full favorability with Naruto. The other ninjas tend to be friendly with Naruto, but not to the point of absolute trust. So, in this kind of matter, they naturally wouldn't listen to Naruto's words. And those Jonin who are not family ninjas are even more unlikely to acknowledge Naruto's order. Sensing many gazes, third generation looked up and saw that everyone was looking at him. Third generation coughed lightly to cover up the slight embarrassment of not paying attention just now, and then said seriously. "You all heard it, just follow what Naruto said. Naruto is right, in this Chunin exam, you must not let other ninja villages see our Konoha jokes. So, you must do your best to study, do you hear me?" For Naruto's decision, third generation can be said to be in favor of it. Third generation is well aware of the pain of staying up late to study, and now that more people can experience this pain, third generation naturally does not hesitate. The third generation personally ordered, and the Jonin naturally had to obey. They looked at all kinds of test questions like a Bible in the exam with sad faces, and kept complaining about Naruto in their hearts. Where do ninjas need so much useless expertise? The ninja battle is over in a flash, where is there so much time to calculate so many things? Really, it will only make things more and more troublesome, without considering other people's feelings at all. Might Gaia looked at the test paper in a daze, with a broken expression on his face. "Kakashi, what should I do?" Kakashi is in a good mood. Cold salad. Anyway, Kakashi doesn't intend to be the examiner. How could Kakashi, who has a lazy personality, go to such a conspicuous place? Coincidentally, with these super difficult questions, Kakashi does not need additional excuses. Just fail the exam. Might Guy obviously didn't expect this. At this moment, he was frowning tightly, thinking about what to do. Looks like I need to ask Xiao Li. Xiao Li and Naruto are in the same class, so they should know these things. Also frowning is Uchiha Fugaku. But Fugaku frowned, not because the topic was too difficult. Although Fugaku also admits that these questions are beyond the outline, what Fugaku cares about is the person who took out this test paper. It can be said that after experiencing a series of things, Fugaku is full of trust in Naruto. Therefore, for any rhetoric of Naruto, Fugaku is 100% support. At this time, Fugaku was thinking about whether to spread the content involved in these test papers to the entire Uchiha clan. After all, it was proposed by Naruto, and it must have its magical effect. Third generation put away the test paper and planned to go back and do it. After all, in order to teach students, I stayed up so many nights. Third generation also wants to see where their limits lie. But now is not the right time. After collecting the test papers, third generation coughed lightly to attract everyone's attention. Naruto, besides this test paper, do you have any other suggestions? As soon as these words came out, all the Jonins frowned. A written test requirement is enough. Will this Naruto still participate in the next exam content? If all the items are involved, is Naruto still a candidate? How can candidates take the exam that the question maker is his own? Isn't that too unfair to other candidates? Hokage-sama, if Naruto is involved in everything, is he not suitable to be an examinee? A Jonin stood up and said, how can there be an exam where the examiner is the examinee? Isn't this too unfair to other examinees? The words of this Jonin have been supported by many Jonins. But there are also some wait-and-see attitudes. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that third generation's attitude towards Naruto is extraordinary. Only these guys who can't see the situation clearly will stand up and preside over the so-called justice. In fact, no one asked them to preside over this justice at all. In the face of doubts, Naruto behaved righteously. This senior will be wrong. How can I come up with the question myself? I appear here only to formulate standards for the examiners. As for how the examiners come up with questions, it is the examiner's own choice. Of course, I will not discuss it. It's just that I don't want some unqualified people to be examiners. That would be a big loss to Konoha's face. A few words were neither humble nor overbearing, which fully explained Naruto's attitude. Who wants to be the questioner? I want to be the one who decides the examiner. The Jonin frowned, wanting to say something else. Third generation said quickly. Naruto's words are very pertinent, and it is really important to confirm the examiner's standards. After all, the Chunin exam is not an exam held by Konoha itself, and we also need to receive ninja from other countries, so there must be no mistakes. If the examiner is not as good as the examinee in terms of the content of the exam, it will fall into the eyes of other shinobi villages. Doesn't it appear that our Konoha is not as strong as her? So, everyone must show the most rigorous attitude to face this Chunin exam, did you hear me? Stop talking too much. Hurry up and let this little ancestor finish talking and leave. Don't make any more fools. Third generation is now eager for Naruto to finish his speech and leave, but unexpectedly, a stunned young man popped up to express his dissatisfaction. Third generation really didn't expect there to be such a blind guy, and they don't know how this guy became a Jonin. Then find a way to send to the frontier. Yes, Lord Hokage. The third generation said so, even if they feel dissatisfied in their hearts, Yinjia can only bear it. After all, third generation is Hokage, their immediate boss. Okay, Naruto, if you have any suggestions, you can say them now. Third generation looked at everyone's attitude with satisfaction, and then said to Naruto gently. Naruto nodded, and then said, the content of the written test needs to be viewed through the test results. As for the basic test of Subject 2, my opinion is, the shuriken technique needs to throw 30 hidden weapons at the same time and hit the target accurately. The body flicker technique moves more than 50 meters. The dodge technique is to avoid the siege of 15 people from far and near at the same time. In the basic ninjutsu of each department, such as the Great Fireball technique, the diameter of the fireball must exceed 3 meters. Wind-style Great Breakthrough must be able to blow down the big tree surrounded by 3 people. ZK.I.T. Naruto explained the content of these basic assessments, and the Jonins present were dumbfounded. Even the third generation was dumbfounded. This is different from what I said before. The Great Fireball with a diameter of 3 meters is the basis? You go ask the people in Uchiha, how many of them can do it? There are other ninjutsu, each request is too outrageous. It is not a normal ninjutsu category at all. Throwing 30 hidden weapons at the same time and hitting the target, this is not human. Oh, Naruto did it? That's okay. It's okay. If someone can do it, can you do it? I don't believe there is anyone besides Naruto who can do it. Sorry, I can do it. Kakashi and Asuma couldn't help thinking to themselves. But this is also the result of their hard work. They wouldn't have been able to if it wasn't for Naruto's introversion. After all, the number of 30 is really astonishing. My body flicker technique can move up to 20 meters, 50 meters consumes too much chakra. You seem to be able to move so far, I think you can't even move 20 meters. These requirements are too difficult. Even as Jonin may not be able to do it, How could those genin be able to do it? Sorry. Students from Naruto's class can still do this. Kakashi and Asuma said again in their hearts. After all, they have all seen it with their own eyes. So it's pretty clear about that. What the hell is this dodge technique? Why haven't I heard of such a technique? And is it serious to avoid the siege of 15 people? Can you fight back when you are under siege? No? You can't hide a hammer. People surround you directly, and you can't even run away. These requirements are too outrageous. Even the assessment to be promoted to Jonin is not so difficult. Where is this Chunin exam? This is probably Jonin examination. Most people are complaining that Naruto's requirements are too difficult. In their view, it was not at all for genin to advance to the difficulty of Chunin's exam. And in the corner, Kakashi and Asuma looked at each other, with a bit of embarrassment in their eyes. It can be said that the two of them are the few Jonin present who can meet the conditions mentioned by Naruto. After all, both of them have been rolled by Naruto, so these basic ninjutsu have been greatly improved. But both of them remained silent. It's obviously not a good choice at this time. Only after passing the written test and the basic assessment can one become a qualified examiner. As for the content of the assessment, it is natural for the examiners to decide freely, and then leave it to Grandpa third generation to decide. Naruto ignored everyone's hobbies and said very calmly. By the way, this is a rare opportunity. Why not invite all the ninja villages of the 5 heavens to participate? This can also show the strength and heritage of our woodleaf to the greatest extent. Upon hearing this, third generation immediately understood that Naruto had finished speaking. As for Naruto's proposal to invite members of the other 5 major nations to take the Chunin exam, Hidai has no intention of refusing. With Naruto here, third generation believes that it is absolutely impossible for other ninja village people to appear genin beyond Naruto. That's almost a sure thing. Because in the eyes of third generation, Naruto is stronger than all the Jonin present. How could there be a monster like Naruto in other ninja villages? Okay, Naruto, thank you for your hard work. Hurry up and go back to prepare for the Chunin assessment, and leave the rest to me. I will arrange for the invitation of the 5 major countries as soon as possible. The land of the winds Sanagakure. Yellow sand filled the sky. As usual, today is still a very hot day. The scorching sun scorched the earth and scorched the sand hot. When sweat drips on the sand, it will evaporate in an instant. And this kind of weather, people living in the desert have long been used to. However, for Fengying Luosha, today's day is unusual. Chunin exam ahead? What the hell is that Sarutobi Hiruzen guy trying to do? Luosha frowned. In the room, besides Rasa, there are advisors Chiyo and Ebizo. Chiyo's face was very ugly at this time. The Konoha guys are too reckless. If you change the date, change the date. Konoha is always so domineering. Ebizo comforted his sister beside him. Sister, don't be angry, be careful not to get angry. The injury I received before hasn't healed yet. Chiyo shook off Ebizo's hand and said viciously. Don't let me meet that stinky brat again. Otherwise, I will definitely tear him to pieces. The stinky kid in Chiyo's mouth is naturally Naruto. Naruto's punch at the beginning, it can be said that Chiyo suffered a lot, and the whole person was bedridden for more than a month before he could barely get off the ground. Fortunately, Chiyo is also an outstanding medical ninja. After so many days of treatment, his body is almost recovered. But when the body recovered, the memories of the past continued to emerge, tormenting Chiyo's spirit. Now Chiyo only wants to tear Naruto to pieces in order to restore Chiyo's lost face in the desert. Luo Sha ignored Chiyo's fiery temper. He was frowning and thinking about why Sleepy Yi suddenly advanced the Chunin exam. Moreover, Luo Sha was more concerned about another matter. Why do you want to specifically state that there will be some ninja school students participating this time? Now is not a time of war. There is no need for those children to become ninjas fighting on the battlefield so early. After much deliberation, Luo Sha didn't figure it out. Konoha, or the real idea of third generation. After pondering for a long time, Luo Sha made up his mind. Someone, go get Gaara and the others back. In the entire Sanagakure, Gaara and the others are the only ones who can do it. Although Gaara, Tamari, and Kankuro are all his Ross's children, in order to find out Konoha's true purpose and not to embarrass his own ninja village, Pairing Sans can only do so. At the same time, you can also take the opportunity to collect some information about Konoha. Soon, Tamari walked into the office first, followed by Kankuro and Gaara. Father. Master Cage, we are here. Tamari just wanted to call his father when he saw Luo Sha look up and stare at him with warning eyes. In desperation, Tamari had no choice but to quickly change the title, but felt a little frustrated. I don't know when. The relationship between them and Luo Sha has become no longer like a father and a child, but directly under the leadership. Maybe it started on the day my mother died? Tamari is unknown. Luo Sha nodded and said, "This time Konoha will hold the Chunin exam in advance, and I plan to let you take part. Use all your strength, and don't lose the face of our Sanagakure." In the end, Luo Sha's expression became very serious, so serious that it made Tamari feel scared. Konkuro was so frightened that he lowered his head and didn't dare to look at Luo Sha. Gaara looked at Luo Sha blankly, but if you look carefully, you can see that Gaara's eyes are a little loose. It seems that Gaara is caught in some kind of memory, reminiscing about a blonde figure. Iwagakure, the land of earth. Huang Tu looked at the invitation letter in his hand and felt distressed. Onoki folded his hands behind his back, looking at the scenery outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. The afterglow of the sunset is very beautiful and makes people addicted to it. "Father, Konoha's Chunin exam invitation, shall we go there?" In the past, Iwagakure would not participate in the Chunin exam held by Konoha. Because in Onoki's view, these are all Konoha's conspiracy, just to hunt outstanding young ninjas from other ninja villages, so many people from ninja villages will gather together to take the Chunin exam. But this time, Onoki did not refuse, because the invitation letter clearly states that Konoha will have a group of students to participate in the Chunin assessment in advance. For Onogi, Naruto is the only one who is qualified to take the Chunin exam among Konoha's ninja school students. Since the last time he witnessed the ultimate speed of Naruto's flying ninjutsu, Onoki has been training his light and heavy rock technique non-stop. It's a pity that no matter how hard Onogi tried, he couldn't reach Naruto's astonishing speed. Facing Wangtu's question, Inoki said without answering, "Of course, this time is a good opportunity to observe Uzumaki Naruto in person. If possible, it's best to solve this future confidant's big trouble." Huang Tu's complexion was complicated, and he felt that it was impossible to do it. After all, Wang Tu also saw Naruto's speed back then. If Naruto wants to run, they probably won't even see Naruto's shadow. But outside the door, the Black King who overheard the conversation was full of joy. "Originally, I just came to my grandfather to check on my recent practice progress, but I didn't expect to hear unexpected news. Will we see Naruto again? I don't know if it's been so long, does Naruto still remember me?" Haitu blushed a little as he thought about it. Various reactions after meeting Naruto flashed through my mind. I can't wait more and more in my heart. Wants to take Konoha's Chunin exam. As for the purpose of the exam, the purpose of being here in the black soil is naturally to meet Naruto, whom I haven't seen for a long time. Thunder Country Cloud Shinobi Village, boom. A loud noise means another table has been damaged. Mabui sighed and wrote down the account silently. "Damn Konoha. Damn old Hiruzen. How dare you provoke me like this?" He even said that he would let the children in the village take the Chunin exam. How dare he send this invitation letter to Lousy? See if I don't get rid of all those stinky brats. Reikage I angrily tore up Konoha's invitation letter. I, who was completely dominated by anger, only felt that third generation's letter specifically mentioning that the ungraduated students from the ninja school took the Chunin exam was a serious provocation to him. Fragments of paper fell in the air, and then a hand pinched a larger fragment. "Brother, do you think it is Uzumaki Naruto who took the Chunin exam? If it's Uzumaki Naruto, he's definitely strong enough, even more than enough to be a Jonin." Killer Bee's words made Reikage's sanity return slightly. "Uzumaki Naruto? I just forgot that there is such a person in Konoha. If Uzumaki Naruto really participated, isn't that still provocative? Isn't this just telling other ninja villages clearly? We have a peerless talent like Uzumaki Naruto. What about you? You have nothing." Ai's face turned red. "Bastard old thing. Lousy must definitely participate, and then kill your favorite Uzumaki Naruto straight away. Wait for me." Killer Bee looked at Mabui, shrugged and said, "It seems that we are going to participate this time. It seems that this Chunin exam will be very interesting." Mabui nodded with a cold expression, picked up a pen and quickly recorded Ai's decision on the document in his hand. "Kirigakure, the land of water. Inside Mizukage's office. However, the one on the chair is not the current Mizukage Yagura, but the masked King Obi. Citrus Yagura stands beside Obito like a puppet. Konoha's Chunin exam? does the specially marked sentence mean that Naruto will participate? This time is a good opportunity. If Uzumaki Naruto can be eradicated, it will definitely be beneficial to future plans. Otherwise, Naruto will definitely be the biggest obstacle to our success when the project starts. Obito made his decision quickly. But the candidates for the Chunin exam still need to be determined. Because what Obito wants is not to compete in a dignified way. Instead, he solved the serious problem of Vice Admiral Naruto in the exam. Of course, it would be best if it could be resolved, and it would not have much impact if it was never resolved. After all, Naruto is very strong. Obito experienced this firsthand. Moreover, to be honest, there are too few lucky children in Aisha village now. It is obviously very difficult to kill Naruto in the exam. Although the chances are slim, this is a rare opportunity. This kind of opportunity to show Konoha's strength, that Hokage will definitely not let go. At that time, there must be a lot of 5 major countries present, and maybe all of them will be present. By then, the situation will be chaotic enough to fish in troubled waters. Mist Shinobi, the best at assassination. Obito's eyes flickered. There was a knock on the door. Then, someone pushed the door open and entered. It's Terumi Mei. At this moment she was appearing with a frown, when she saw Yugura sitting on a chair, looking up at her. His eyes were indifferent. What's the spoon? A flash of anger flashed in Terumi Mei's eyes, but she quickly covered it up. She knew that now was not the time. Although Terumi Mei really wanted to free Kirigakure from the current blood mist. But relying on her strength alone is not enough. Now Terumi Mei can't reveal her true thoughts. Mizukage-sama, I think Konoha's Chunin exam this time must have a conspiracy. Otherwise, why would they call all the ninja villages of the 5 major countries to participate? Goju Yugura looked at Terumi Mei indifferently, and under Obito's control, Goju Yugura asked. Then what do you think Konoha's conspiracy is? Terumi Mei shook her head and said. I can't say it, but Konoha's sudden attitude is really strange. My subordinates believe that a thorough investigation is necessary. As for the decision to take the Chunin exam, I think it can be delayed. At least before finding out Konoha's purpose, getting into the game is not a good choice. After all, we don't have many good seedlings in Kirigakure. Terumi Mei lowered her head slightly, her eyes dim. Because of the rules in the Blood Mist, the genin graduates have to go through a life and death struggle, and only those who survive can become Yuanian ninjas. This decision has also led to a serious shortage of people in Kirigakure. Although there are more chances of elite heroes being born, the sacrifices made for this are too huge. It is tantamount to cutting off the foundation of the village. And this, momentum is also the purpose of Obito. To achieve Obito's final plan, weakening the 5 major powers is a necessary process. Only in this way can the subsequent resistance be reduced. Hearing what Terumi Mei said, Yugura frowned and said. You mean we Kirigakure's people can't compare to their Konoha? You think our Kirigakure ninjas will never return? Terumi Mei was startled, and immediately knelt down on one knee and bowed her head and said. The subordinates dare not. Snort. Citrus Yugura snorted coldly and said. I have made a decision on this matter, so you don't need to worry about it. Back off. Yes. Terumi Mei lowered her head and left the office. After Terumi Mei exited, Obito also reappeared from the shadows. And the look in Yugura's eyes became dim, like a puppet, without the breath of the living. Konoha's move this time is indeed big, but since Naruto is involved, why am I not surprised at all? The brow furrowed under Obito's mask. Intuition told Obito this was a good opportunity. Whether it is to eradicate Naruto or weaken the other 5 powers, it is a rare opportunity. But there is not much preparation time left for Obito. Otherwise, when all the shadows of the 5 major countries gather in one place, and he uses a small plan to sabotage the Chunin exam and make the 5 major countries suspect each other, then even one shadow will not die. Konoha, who holds the Chunin exam, will definitely be badly hurt. I am afraid that it will not be able to recover for several years. But alas. Again. Too little time left for Obito. There are less than 10 days left until the Chunin exam. After much deliberation, and after careful consideration, Dai still made up his mind. Go. But don't act rashly. At least Obito would have to maintain control over Yugura, keeping Kirigakure under his control. This is an opportunity, whether it is an assassination or a temptation, there are certain benefits. At least get to the bottom of Naruto. Rain Country, Rain Shinobi Village. Pen stands like a statue on top of a gigantic sculpture. Let the rain fall on your body without any shelter. With indifferent eyes, he looked at the entire Rain Shinobi village. Ninja village, under pain. Fluttering. The sound of paper flipping represents the identity of the visitor. Pain. A letter from Konoha. Conan stood behind Pain, holding a piece of paper in his hand and handing it to Pain. It's an invitation. Pain frowned slightly, a trace of curiosity flashed in his heart. Konoha invited them to Rain Shinobi village? What happened? Pain took the invitation letter and examined it carefully. Conan explained the contents of the invitation letter. It's about the Chunin exam. Konoha advanced the time. Pain continued to watch. If it was just this level of news, Conan would not have shown him the invitation letter. Then what? Pain asked lightly. Conan lowered his head slightly, and said with a serious face. Konoha invited all the countries of the 5 major countries to participate this time. And most importantly, the target that we are paying special attention to, Uzumaki Naruto, will also participate. This is an opportunity. A chance to eradicate Uzumaki Naruto. Pain looked up, looking at Conan blankly. It's too risky, and it won't do our plans any good if we expose our existence. Conan lowered his head and didn't continue talking. She just put forward a suggestion. As to whether Pain adopts it, it is not something she can decide. And what Pain said makes sense. Now that their plan has not yet started, exposing them in advance will only delay the progress of the plan. However, Pain changed the subject. But you can try. As long as the disguise is good, there should be no problem. As for the disguise, let's choose Deidara and Hidan. The age of the two of them is more suitable, and the age of the others is too old, and it is easy to reveal their secrets when they are disguised. Conan looked up and asked, "What if it is exposed?" Pain shook his head. "There are risks in everything we do, but we can minimize the risks. If you don't have a suitable opportunity, don't rush to make a move. With their strength, it is more than enough to protect themselves in the Chunin exam." Conan nodded in understanding. What Pain meant was simple. You can sneak attack, but you have to watch the timing. If you don't have the opportunity, then don't sneak attack. The main purpose is not to reveal the identity of the Akatsuki organization. I leave it to you to pretend to be Deidara and Hidan, Conan. Pain gave an order, and then a flame ignited on the invitation letter in his hand, and soon the invitation letter turned into a cloud of dust and dissipated. Conan nodded, his body turned into paper and left. Above the statue, once again entered the quiet world. Only the sound of rain is accompanied by the standing Pain, feeling the quiet atmosphere together. Yinren village, at the foot of an unknown mountain. Walking slowly, seemingly leisurely, but always pay attention to the surrounding situation. Soon, he came to a rock and looked around. After confirming that no one was following him, he stepped into the hidden space behind the rock with a dodge. Afterwards, after fiddled with it a few times, he opened the mechanism and entered the hidden passage. Following his entry, the channel was immediately closed again. Who is it? The entry of the bag immediately aroused vigilance. Kitamaru immediately lowered his voice, and the spider sticky gold in his hand immediately turned into a sharp short spear, able to deal a fatal blow to the opponent at any time. "It's me," Pocket said in a low voice. "Is Lord Orochimaru there? I have some urgent news to deliver to Lord Orochimaru." Seeing that it was a Pocket, Kitamaru immediately put away the spider's sticky gold. "Master Orochimaru is busy, please wait for a while." Kitamaru's words were not polite at all. After all, it's Orochimaru, not Kazuma, that Kitamaru respects and fears. Especially with the curse seal bestowed by Orochimaru, Kitamaru, who has gained unprecedented power, doesn't even look down on Kato, who doesn't even have a curse seal. From Kitamaru's point of view, Kabuki is just the person next to Orochimaru who is in charge of gathering information, not an important role. And those who have been sealed by the curse are the people that Orochimaru takes a fancy to. Yeah? Sensing Kitamaru's attitude, Kabuki was not offended. After all, as a double-faced agent, Do has first-class skills in nourishing chi, and is very good at hiding his thoughts. This is also the reason why Do was able to become a double agent without being exposed. Kato passed by Kitamaru, as if turning a blind eye to Kitamaru. "You are responsible for guarding. I will go inside and wait for the celestial being of the big snake." "You." Kitamaru let out a low growl, his face full of anger. Affected by the curse seal, Kitamaru's temper is very hot now. Fortunately, Kitamaru still had enough sense to not really dare to make a move against two. It's not that Kitamaru is afraid of Kodo, but that the noise of the fight will disturb Orochimaru. Kitamaru would never dare to provoke Orochimaru. Facing Kitamaru's anger, Toku just raised a smile on the corner of his mouth, and left without stopping. Only Kitamaru was left standing there impotent and furious. After all, Kitamaru still needs to be on guard against the entrance. His silk can be very effective in monitoring the surrounding situation. Passing through the passage, Do quickly came to a spacious place. There are still a few people in here. They are Jirobo, Tayuya and Sakan Yukon, who joined most recently on, and one of Orochimaru's right-hand men, Kimimaro. What's the matter? Kimimaro saw the bag and asked lightly. Pushing his glasses, he said with a smile, I have an important piece of information to inform Lord Orochimaru. Kimimaro said, What kind of information? Spread out his hands and said, This information is very important, and since you have never had contact with the target, I don't think you can judge the importance of this information. Kimimaro frowned immediately. Target? Who? Do smiled and said, Uzumaki Naruto. As soon as the name came out, Hirobo's face changed suddenly. Tayuya and Sakan looked at Jirobo curiously. What's wrong? Your face looks weird. What's wrong with the name? Jirobo shook his head repeatedly, not daring to speak. It was the stalking for a while that made him completely scared. Whether it is Naruto's terrifying staying power or Naruto's powerful strength, it is an existence that makes Jirobo fearful. Hearing this strange name, Kimimaro immediately understood that Do was telling the truth. As for why Kimimaro has never heard of this name, it is because the person who performed the mission did not say anything after returning. Then you just wait here, Orochimaru is conducting a very important research. After Kimimaro finished speaking, he closed his eyes and rested. After all, Kimimaro's health is very bad, due to a family genetic disease. Unless he is fighting, he will usually be in a state of rest. But now Kimimaro is much better than a few years later, at least he doesn't have all kinds of tubes inserted all over his body to maintain his health. Do nodded and found a seat to sit down. He also knew that it would not be a good choice to disturb Orochimaru at this time. As a researcher, what Yin Snake hates most is when someone comes in to disturb him while he is doing research. The last time was third generation, but Orochimaru couldn't beat that time. But Orochimaru has a plan in mind, but it's not yet time to implement it. Orochimaru is going to start this plan after taking Naruto's body. This will ensure that nothing goes wrong. Just like that, 5 people stayed in the room silently, letting time go by. No one spoke, only Jirobo made eating noises. Tayuya took her baby flute and kept wiping it. This is an important tool used by Tayuya to perform illusions, and it can be said that it is the source of all of Tayuya's combat power. Zuo Jin was sitting on a chair in a daze, and Yujin was on his back, with his head lowered as if he was in a deep sleep. Because of a unique reason, the two near and far share the same body. But when necessary, the two can separate to play more and less. Time passed slowly. After several hours, Dashiwan came out from the darkness of another passage. Seeing Orochimaru, everyone immediately stood up. Orochimaru saw the pocket at a glance, and said with a smile. Do, are you here? It just so happens that my research has made some progress this time, and if there is a chance, I will have a greater chance of catching Naruto. Do said with a smile. Master Orochimaru, there is a very good opportunity right now. Orochimaru's eyes lit up. Oh, let's hear it. Koto handed the scroll that recorded the information to Orochimaru, and said. Konoha intends to advance the Chunin exam, and third generation invited all ninja villages in the 5 major countries under the recommendation of Naruto. At that time, I am afraid there will be a grand scene. The most important thing is that Naruto will take this Chunin exam. Orochimaru immediately understood the meaning of the bag, with an excited smile on his face. It is indeed a good opportunity. With so many ninjas participating, it must have been very chaotic. At this time, it is a good time for us to take advantage of the chaos. Yes, Do, you did bring good news. How should I reward you? Pooh lowered his head and said. It's an honor to be able to serve Master Orochimaru, so don't mention rewards or anything like that. Orochimaru nodded in relief. Do, the news this time is very timely, you should go back and prepare. With you going back to make preparations, we will definitely have greater confidence when we cooperate internally and externally. Yes. Do lowered his head and said, the subordinate will leave first. As he spoke, he stepped back into the passage behind him. After Do left, Kimimaro couldn't help his inner curiosity and asked. Master Orochimaru, who is this man named Uzumaki Naruto? Do you need him to bring here? Orochimaru shook his head and said, no, you are not his opponent. Speaking of which, you don't know who Uzumaki Naruto is, do you? I was too tired when I came back last time, and I didn't tell you in detail. Uzumaki Naruto is the body I fancy. If I can have that body, my research will definitely be able to go to a higher level. Kimimaro nodded. I see, that subordinate will definitely try his best to bring back that body for Lord Orochimaru. Orochimaru nodded in satisfaction and said, okay, according to the time given by Do, there is still a little preparation time. Go find Toss and the others and tell them they have a mission. It's time to take the Chunin exam. When other ninja villages respond to the invitation and plan to send people to attend this Chunin exam, what is Konoha, the organizer, doing? Konoha is mobilizing. Under Naruto's lobbying, the civilians started to make preparations spontaneously, tidy up the shops, and even decorated them with lanterns and festoons, as if they were going to celebrate a major festival. Actually, the Chunin exam has nothing to do with these commoners. They didn't have the slightest sense of participation in the previous Chunin exams. I just sighed that there are more ninjas from other villages in the village. This kind of thing is very unusual for the people in the village. Every year, you can only take a look at the Chunin exam. However, this time under the lobbying of Naruto, the civilians spontaneously started to form to maintain the face of Konoha village. In the words of Naruto, we must not let people in other villages look down on us Konoha. We must maintain the fine tradition of Konoha and maintain the dignity of Konoha. And Naruto himself, who said these words, strictly trained the basic training of the Jonins in the practice field. Candidates for examiners have not yet been confirmed. All Jonin had to train with Naruto. This is an order issued by the third generation, and they can only obey it. But after less than a day of cultivation, more than half of Yishi's people chose to give up. In their view, the difficulty of recognizing 30 hidden weapons to accurately hit the target at the same time, or the difficulty of dodging 15 people's siege from far and near at the same time, are all inhuman. And others, such as the basic ninjutsu of various departments, are more difficult than imagined. Even Jonin of the Uchiha family is having a headache at the moment how to spit out a great fireball with a diameter of several meters. In Jonin's team, Anko followed the practice of throwing shuriken, but kept complaining. Why should we practice these? It's obviously not us who took the exam. Although Anko didn't become one of the batch of Jonin who gave up, she couldn't hold back her complaints. Every time she trains, she will complain a few words. But when training, I will still train honestly. Kakashi said helplessly beside him. Stop talking so much nonsense, let's practice honestly. Since you have not chosen to give up, take the path you have chosen, even if it is difficult. On the other side, Might Guy is throwing a shuriken enthusiastically, his eyes seem to be burning with fighting spirit. Naruto is right. As an instructor, how can you be worse than an examinee? If you can't even compare with the candidates at that time, it's a small shame for yourself, and it's a shame for the village. If that kind of thing really happened, I would definitely commit suicide in shame. Anko gritted his teeth and threw the shuriken wildly. After several days of devil training, Anko was able to throw 20 shurikens at the same time. But this number is still 10 pieces short of the qualified standard, and the accuracy is also a little worse. As for Kakashi and Might Guy, they were already able to throw more than 30 pieces at the same time. Of course, this is related to the two people who have practiced before. In fact, Kakashi didn't want to continue, he wanted to be one of those who gave up. Unfortunately, third generation saw Kakashi's idea early. So he said to Kakashi, Kakashi, I won't blame you if you want to give up. But what do you think your father will think? Faced with the treatment of his son as a deserter, do you think Shuo Mao will recognize you? Just a short sentence, put Kakashi on the fire. Kakashi had no choice but to continue participating. But Kakashi has no fighting spirit at all, and he doesn't want to be an examiner at all. With this time, wouldn't it be better to look at the girl by Gia more often? In Kakashi's view, being an examiner is a waste of precious life. The next day, the Jonins arrived early as usual. But when they were about to start practicing, the third generation suddenly appeared. I'm here for a surprise inspection. It's only a few days before the Chunin exam, and it's time to confirm the candidates for the examiner. Hearing this, the faces of the Jonins tensed up. Then, the items start one by one. The first is shuriken technique. After just a few days of practice, there are not many people who can do it. They are all elite Jonin of the village. His own strength is very strong, and he has enough talent, so he can learn quickly. But most of them didn't pass. This result immediately made third generation's face darken. But third generation didn't attack, but endured it. Wait, there are other projects in the future. Maybe they will be more suitable for other projects. Muttering softly, Hayo waited for the results of other tests. However, whether it is the body flicker technique test or the ninjutsu test, there are not many passers. Most Jonin were eliminated. Of course, one of them did it on purpose. That is Kakashi. Kakashi, this guy. Third generation, is also speechless. Even though I said that at the beginning, I thought it would arouse Kakashi's fighting spirit. As a result, Kakashi turned out to be bad. The third generation is helpless, but there is no way. After all, it is now in the public eye. If third generation, who is the shadow of a village, backtracks, it will obviously leave a very bad impression on people. Therefore, in the face of Kakashi's feigning death, third generation can't do anything. Fortunately, not everyone is as bad as Kakashi, otherwise third generation will really have a headache. It's really troublesome. I failed again. Anko punched the tree angrily, and the big tree hugged by the two immediately fell to the ground with a whimper. This is Anko's 3 consecutive failures, and there was more than one project that failed. Kakashi stepped forward and patted Anko on the shoulder. If you don't feel good, don't force yourself. Everything must be done according to one's ability. Anko shrugged and shook Kakashi's hand away, rolled his eyes and said angrily. That's you. I'm not one to quit halfway. Just wait and see. I will definitely be the examiner for this Chunin exam. The results of the test were not satisfactory. After all, there are too many Jonin who didn't pass. This not only made Naruto unsatisfied, third generation even frowned. But it's not all the Jonin's lack of effort, because their pass line is really too difficult. At least in the eyes of the students on the sidelines, that is the case. All of them can throw 20 shurikens at once. As expected of Konoha Jonin, only Sasuke among us can surpass this number. It's really amazing. No, we can't admit defeat either. Yes, that's right. We have also been taught by Naruto, and for a longer time. The onlookers were full of fighting spirit. Although they have studied with Naruto longer, their foundation is weaker than that of Jonin. So far, the only one who can meet all the passing standards of this exam is Naruto. Others are often able to pass one subject, or 2 or 3, but definitely not all of them. Some students even failed to pass a project. Of course, this does not mean that the strength of these students is poor. In fact, under Naruto's teaching, none of Naruto's students in this class is worse than Chunin. Most are special Jonin and Jonin strengths, and the top few have reached the level of elite Jonin, or even stronger. At this moment, when they watched the assessment of the Jonins and found that they were not as good as these Jonins in terms of overall strength, the blood in the students' bodies suddenly boiled. They obviously studied with Naruto for a longer time. There is no reason why they are worse than these Jonin who only studied for a few days. This moment, they just want to surpass the once unreachable beings in front of them. Just because they actually saw the possibility of approaching. As long as you continue to practice with Naruto, you will definitely be able to. Look, Sasuke did it. Most of the students present looked at those Jonins who performed well and reached the passing line. But Sasuke's gaze stayed on Naruto all the time. Because in Sasuke's view, those who pass the test are only a few. And Sasuke is far from someone who can be satisfied with a passing grade. Only the strongest is Sasuke's goal. But now, Sasuke has only one goal. That is Naruto. Naruto felt Sasuke's hot gaze, looked back suspiciously, and then saw Sasuke raised his chin provocatively. Naruto, who was a little speechless in his heart, shook his head, turned his head and continued to stare at Jonin's training situation. HMPH. How dare you ignore me? Just wait and see, Naruto. I'll definitely grow to the point where you can't ignore me anymore. Sasuke clenched his hands tightly and roared angrily inside. Even the eyes turned the scarlet of the Sharingan. A few days passed. One after another, people from other ninja villages who came to take the Chunin exam began to come. But they were all blocked at the door of Konoha Gate. Soon, a group of seemingly ordinary but strange people came. Although he has an ordinary appearance, he has an ordinary figure and height. But looking at their walking pace and that unique temperament, one can see their extraordinaryness at a glance. These people are obviously members of the Akatsuki organization in disguise. Itachi, I didn't expect to be back after so long. What's on your mind? The big man disguised as dried persimmon and ghost shark said with a smile. Itachi disguised as a young man shook his head and said nothing. Itachi's eyes looked calm. But if you look carefully, you can see a trace of hatred hidden in the eyes. Obviously, Itachi has a very deep hatred for the third generation who finally betrayed him. After all, Itachi even planned to sacrifice his own people for the sake of the village. But in the end, he was treated like this. It would be impossible for anyone else to endure such a betrayal. Even a weasel. Okay, don't say these things casually, be careful to be overheard. Pain said calmly. Don't forget, this is our first time visiting Rain Shinobi Village in Konoha. Don't say something that makes people suspicious. Gon Shi Gui Sha scratched the back of his head, looking like a simple and honest person. Sorry, I'll take care. At this time, Hidan, who was disguised as a contestant, pouted. It's a good thing to be able to kill people at will, but can I really not offer sacrifices to Lord Evil God? Conan warned immediately. Absolutely not. You are a Rain Shinobi now, and Rain Shinobi doesn't have such evil ninjutsu. Don't worry, after this mission is over, I will give you enough sacrifices to the evil gods. Hidan said dissatisfied. You have to call Lord Evil God. Conan rolled his eyes vaguely and stopped talking. Deidara frowned, also a little dissatisfied, because most of Deidara's strength is in his explosives. But it turned out that this exam also strictly used blasting techniques. Because it would expose Deidara's true identity. After all, people from Iwagakure took the Chunin exam this time. If Black Soil finds out that Deidara uses the blasting technique, Deidara's identity will be exposed immediately. Deidara was very dissatisfied that he could not exert his full strength. But Deidara also knows the priorities, however, D is not a little resistant. After all, the goal of the Akatsuki organization this time is Naruto, just to wait for an opportunity to kill Naruto in the chaotic examination room, so as to solve this serious problem in the future. But Deidara was very reluctant. After all, Naruto can be regarded as half of Deidara's master. Wait, what's going on in front? Why are there so many people gathered in front of the Konoha gate? When they came near the Konoha gate, they immediately saw the abnormal situation. It was obvious that the ninjas from other ninja villages were stopped outside the gate of Konoha. What's even more weird is that there are still a large number of tents in the open space on both sides of the gate. I don't know what these tents are used for. What happened? Angle frowned. He didn't like unexpected things to happen. Hidan said jokingly. Is it because they didn't expect to receive so many people, and they were not ready for a while? That's why they are arranged to live in these tents? Itachi shook his head and said. Impossible, let alone less than 1,000 candidates. Even if there are thousands of people, Konoha can afford to entertain them. As a native of Konoha, Itachi is naturally aware of Konoha's situation. Hoshigaki Kisame said with a smile. Fei Duan Yi is just joking, don't take it seriously. Hidan rolled his eyes away. What? Are you still reluctant to part with this village? Itachi lowered his eyes and said in a low voice. How come? All I care about is one person. What will happen to this village? I don't care anymore. Sasuke, are you okay? Are you in great pain right now? Itachi thought painfully. Thinking that Sasuke knew the news of his defection, Itachi's heart felt as painful as a knife. The former Itachi was ready and used it as a condition to keep Sasuke alive from the genocide. But now, the clan has not been destroyed, but he, Uchiha Itachi, has become a rebel. But this time, it was no longer the rebellious ninja with the interest of being an undercover agent, but the rebellious ninja who was really betrayed. And it was Konoha Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, who betrayed Itachi. Conan, go over and see what's going on. Pain said in a low voice. The sudden situation made Pain's nerves a little tense. Not too scared, but the necessary vigilance is still necessary. Moreover, it is not time for them to surface, so their identities cannot be revealed yet. Suddenly, Pain felt a stinging gaze behind him. Pain turned his head immediately, but he didn't see anyone, only the forest on both sides of the road. Pain frowned, thinking that he was being overwhelmed. What's wrong? Asked Black Zetsu. Pain shook his head. Nothing. In the forest, a man wearing a bamboo hat sticks out his tongue like a snake letter, his face is full of excitement. Unexpectedly, Rain Shinobi Village hides such a strong group of people. Looks like this Chunin exam is going to be very interesting. I don't know how many usable bodies we can collect. Orochimaru's face was full of excitement for the chaos to come. In the chaos, it is the best time for Orochimaru to fish in troubled waters and attack Naruto. Naruto is Orochimaru's ultimate goal this time. However, since the last surveillance incident, Orochimaru knew that it was difficult for Naruto to show his weakness. That being the case, Orochimaru wouldn't mind picking another backup candidate as a replacement. And the disguised Akatsuki organization entered Orochi's eyes. Orochimaru saw the extraordinariness of Akatsuki's organization at a glance. That kind of expert temperament, even if has been disguised, is so eye-catching. And what excites Orochimaru the most is that Akatsuki comes from the mysterious Rain Shinobi village. At the beginning, Orochimaru and Jiraiya Tsunade fought against the demigod Hanzo of the Salamander without dying, so they were called Konoha Sannin by the world. And now, there have been so many powerful ninjas in the very mysterious Rain Shinobi village. It really made Orochimaru very curious. Some acquaintances are here again. Soon, Orochimaru saw some familiar people. It is someone who has met on the battlefield. The people of Sanagakure. The team is led by Keisuke Rasa, advisor Chiyo, and several Jonin. Behind them are 10 participating teams. Among them, Gaara, who is the youngest but with the most extraordinary temperament, is the most eye-catching. This chakra, is it a tailed beast? Orochimaru was keenly aware of the presence of chakra around Gaara. The well-informed Orochimaru immediately recognized the one-tailed Shukuru owned by Sanagakure. I didn't expect Keisuke to be so courageous that even Jinchuriki was sent here. Also, the more chaotic the situation, the better for me. Beside Orochimaru, the people of Itonin village and Kazuo all remained silent, hiding their figures. Let's go out too. If we always hide here, it's not easy to observe these opponents. Orochimaru smiled, and walked out of the forest first. Pain noticed immediately after Orochimaru came out. Because the direction Orochimaru came out of was exactly the direction Pain felt his gaze. However, looking at Orochimaru's well-pretended face, Pain just frowned. I haven't seen it. Who is it? Is that forehead protector a ninja village? Discovering that Orochimaru was only from an unknown shinobu village, Pain ignored it. People from Sanagakure also noticed Orochimaru and others who suddenly came out of the forest. But the people in Yinin village were very strange to those present. Luo Sha and Chiyo only care about the big-headed Orochimaru, but they are quickly attracted by the unique Akatsuki organization. It can only be said that the people in the Shao organization are too maverick. It's obviously been disguised, but the uncommonness buried in the body is what attracts everyone's attention. Are there so many masters in Rain Shinobi village? Chiyo looked serious. I don't know if the old man with the snorkel is dead. The current Rain Shinobi village is really full of secrets. Luo Sha nodded slowly, but Rain Shinobi village is too far away from the land of the wind. Luo Sha has never been to the land of rain, and has no chance to communicate with Hanzo of the Salamander. Don't worry about those who don't matter, it's also a good thing that Rain Shinobi village is strong. In this way, the situation can become chaotic, and then we can solve the serious problem of Uzumaki Naruto. Otherwise, if this kid grows up, he will definitely become an existence that suppresses an era like Senju Hashirama. Speaking of Naruto, Chiyo's expression suddenly twisted. If I hadn't been careless, how could I have lost to this brat? Obviously, Chiyo still has a lot of dissatisfaction with defeat by Naruto last time. It was clear that Chiyo had the upper hand in the situation, but Naruto did not know what to do, and her puppets were blown to pieces one by one. Taking advantage of Chiyo's unpreparedness, Naruto knocked Chiyo unconscious with a punch. Overall, the battle situation is still very clear. But as one of the fighting parties, Chiyo does not agree with this result. Sanagakure and his party continued to move forward. Then, they also saw the abnormal situation in front of Day Gate. What happened? Chiyo frowned, and then said to Kankuro behind him. You go and see. Kankuro pointed at himself, surprised. But seeing Chiyo's stern eyes, he had no choice but to go over to check the situation. There are so many people, why are you looking for me? Kankuro muttered, but didn't dare to say it out loud. After all, neither Luo Sha nor Chiyo is an existence he can resist. In Akatsuki's organization, an inconspicuous old man saw Chiyo. The old man looks ordinary on the surface, but when the scorpion hidden in it sees Chiyo, a flash of reminiscence flashes in his eyes. Grandmother, but soon, the memories were abandoned by him. As the main fuse of the Third Ninja World War, Scorpion, who personally killed Third Keisuke and then defected, is undoubtedly a hard-hearted person. From the fact that Scorpion killed a large number of ninja villages in the Kingdom of the Wind and made them all into human puppets, it can be seen that Scorpion does not have any empathy. He is an out-and-out murderous maniac. Luo Sha and Chiyo waited in place. Before Kankuro came back, he waited until someone came from behind. HMPH, it's that smelly old man with a big nose. Chiyo looked back, and immediately averted her gaze in disgust. Because the person who came was from Iwagakure. In the lead is Tsuchikage Onogi. Behind him are several Iwagakure Jonin, including Onogi's son Wangtu. Black Soil is among the team of contestants. Seeing that he was about to reach Konoha, Haitu was full of excitement at the moment. It has to be said that Black Earth hasn't seen Naruto for a while. Since Naruto showed a wave of supersonic flight in front of Onoki and Wangtu that time, Naruto has never appeared again. Haitu even felt a little lonely in his heart. Originally, I thought that I would not have the opportunity to meet Naruto recently, but I didn't expect that Konoha's Chunin exam was advanced, and Iwagakure, who was rarely invited before, was invited. After all, Konoha's previous Chunin exams only invited some well-connected ninja villages. This time Konoha will invite other ninja villages, which is really beyond everyone's expectations. While being wary of Konoha's conspiracy, they also sent people over out of curiosity. It's not bad to go out for a trip. I saw a lot of acquaintances. Onogi saw Chiyo, who turned his head, with a false smile on his face. All are people who have dealt with each other on the battlefield. It's been such a long time since we met again. Is that the Kage? I heard that it is very powerful and can suppress the tailed beast alone. Looking at Luo Sha's eyes, Onogi took some seriousness. Although he has never seen Luo Sha's strength, being able to suppress the tailed beast alone has already explained some problems. Father, is that boy the Jinchuriki of Sunagakure? Huang Tu suddenly said softly. Onoki followed the direction that the Lois pointed, and saw Gaara carrying a big gourd. Gaara, who has thick dark circles under her eyes, exudes an aura that no strangers should enter. He obviously looks very young, but he is full of murderous intent. Apparently, quite a few people have been killed. This is also related to Luosha's high-pressure policy. Moreover, Gaara's tailed beast seal was not complete, which made Gaara dare not sleep at all. Because once Gaara falls asleep, one-tail Shukaku will emerge from his body and wreak havoc. In order to prevent Gaara from falling asleep, Luo Sha even sent someone to assassinate Gaara. On the one hand, it keeps Gaara awake, and on the other hand, it also makes Gaara familiar with this cruel life. Therefore, there are not a few ninjas who died at the hands of Gaara. Other ninjas who want to destroy in Ninja Village, and ninjas sent by Luo Sha himself to assassinate. Even if the current Gaara is only 7 years old, the amount of blood stained in his hands is already unknown. Especially the death of Gaara's uncle Yashimaru deeply stimulated Gaara, causing Gaara's character to become closed and crazy. Beneath that expressionless exterior lurks a monster full of rage. Onogi made a distinction, and immediately recognized the tail beast chakra hidden in Gaara's chakra. It's indeed a tailed beast. I didn't expect Kage to bring Jinchuriki here. Is that supposed to be his son? It seems that he is also a very courageous person. Onoki's eyes were serious. Unexpectedly, Jinchuriki will appear in this Chunin exam. The existence of Jinchuriki has a very large gap in strength for ordinary ninjas. Because Jinchuriki can borrow the chakra of the tailed beast, and the chakra of the tailed beast is known as infinite. In terms of the amount of chakra, it is basically impossible for ordinary ninjas to match Renly. Not to mention that it is only a group of genin who take the Chunin exam now. Even with outstanding talent, it is impossible to fight against Jinchuriki. Moreover, Jinchuriki has the ability to flip the table if they disagree with each other. In that case, even Jonin might not be able to deal with it. Suddenly, Onogi turned his gaze and turned behind him. It turned out to be Reikage. Onoki's eyes were full of smiles, but there was also a trace of fear. During the war, Onoki dispatched tens of thousands of ninjas to surround 3rd Reikage for 3 days and 3 nights, and the regiment General Fu died. So Onoki knew deeply how terrifying these guys who looked like muscular monsters were. In the competition of endurance, it is comparable to a tailed beast. Moreover, the unique Leighton ninjutsu has a very high physical fitness bonus. Lightning style is extremely restrained and earth style. Rao Onoki had made sufficient preparations back then, but when the winner was decided, he still only consumed 3rd Reikage to death instead of defeating 3rd Reikage head-on. That's a human-tailed beast. Onoki is not particularly clear about how the strength of 4th Reikage compares with that of 3rd Reikage. After all, Onoki never faced 4th Reikage in person. However, 4th Reikage is the son of 3rd Reikage after all, so it should not be underestimated. Onoki saw 4th Reikage, and 4th Reikage naturally saw Onoki. TCH, unlucky old guy. I pouted, his face gloomy. The relationship between Cloud Shinobi and Rock Shinobi is not very good. As an allied force against Konoha, Rock Shinobi unilaterally tore up the Covenant and set a trap to kill Third Raikage. This hatred cannot be eliminated simply. If there were no other tasks this time, Gaudi would rush to avenge his father. Be patient, big brother, Killer Bee whispered. Don't forget why we came here. Snort. I snorted coldly and looked away. I know. She stepped forward and said. There seems to be something going on ahead. Lord Raikage, please wait here for a while. I'll go and see what's going on. I nodded. The others stayed where they were, hoping to check the situation alone. At this time, the open space outside the Konoha gate is full of big names. Raikage, Kazekage, Tsuchikage. There are also members of the Akatsuki organization in disguise, and Orochi and Atonin village members in disguise. Of the 5 major countries, only the country of water remained. In the silence, they observed each other, guessing whether their purpose of coming was the same as their own. At this time, Kirigakure's people were long overdue. The first is naturally Mizuka Jigura. Behind him, there are several Jonin. And Obito, hidden in it, secretly controls Yagura's behavior. Now, except for the host Fang Muyi, all the members of the 5 major countries are here. It's really lively. The shadow of the 5 major countries is only short of Hokage. Obito's eyes were cold, and he seemed to be sighing, but without any emotion. After losing a beloved woman, all emotions in it are closed. All Obito cares about is completing the plan. To this end, Obito is willing to make any sacrifices. Even if it is to destroy the former village and Sleepy Leaves, it will not hesitate. Peep at each other, fear each other. The scene was silent. However, at the Konoha gate, it seemed very noisy. At this time, Konan, who went first, returned first. But her complexion was a little ugly. Pain frowned slightly, and asked in a low voice after Konan came back. What's the situation? Konan shook his head, but didn't reply right away. Pain didn't urge him either, but just watched Konan silently. It seemed that he was thinking about how to express the news he had just learned, but the news was so absurd that Konan felt for a while whether he had been pranked. The situation is a bit complicated. It seems that you need to pass a postgraduate entrance examination to get in. The brows of everyone in the Akatsuki organization suddenly frowned. Test? What test? Dried Persimmon Kisame stared blankly at Itachi and said. Does it take so much trouble to enter your Konoha? Itachi was also bewildered. Of course he didn't know what the test was. No matter what the test is, just go and see it. Hidan walked over first. If only the test was killing people. You're thinking farts, Deidara said bluntly. Hidan immediately turned his head viciously. What did you say? As he said that, he raised his fist and planned to fight with Deidara. Enough. Pain said lightly. Hidan and Deidara snorted coldly and turned their heads away from looking at each other. Go and see. At this time, people from other ninja village also found out the news. Like Konan, his complexion is not very good looking. The people who heard the news were even more confused, not knowing what Konoha was up to. We are invited to take the exam. Is this what your attitude is? Entering the village still needs a test. What's the meaning? If you fail the test, you can't enter the village, right? It's too contemptuous of people. There was anger in everyone's heart. Obviously, Konoha's behavior made them feel that they were underestimated. With the arrival of the ninjas from the 4 major countries, as well as the Akatsuki organization and the blind ninja village. The Konoha gate, which was already crowded, became even more crowded. The security guards in charge of guarding were all nervous, for fear of conflicts. Gang ZT and Kodzuki Izumo, who were in charge of guarding the gate, were sweating profusely, and Minri was shouting with a loudspeaker. Don't squeeze, don't squeeze. Please line up and come one by one to collect the papers. Everyone has it. Don't squeeze. Paper. What paper? Suddenly, doubts emerged in the hearts of everyone. Of course, the ninjas from the small country already knew the situation, they just wanted to get that damn paper as soon as possible, and then pass the test to enter Konoha village. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing to pass the test and be left outside. They have seen people who failed the assessment and ran into the forest without a face. He didn't even dare to use the tent specially prepared by Konoha. Is the test a written test? Hidan looked disappointed and had a headache at the same time. After all, Hidan looks like a simple-minded guy. It would be better to kill him than let him take the exam. Others who were not good at exams also frowned. But after all, it is just a test, so where can it be so difficult? However, after the test papers were handed in, everyone was dumbfounded. Looking at the above various equations, knowledge of dynamics, etc., each of them was blinded, and they couldn't understand what these topics were talking about. What do you mean? Why do you still need to do this paper when you enter your village? Dissatisfied, Rakage stepped forward directly, knocking everyone in front of him flying, and grabbed Gang ZT by the collar. Suddenly, the scene was on the verge of breaking out. The eyes of Uchiha of the defense team changed one after another, revealing the Scarlet 3 Tomo Sharingan. A weapon like kunai was already drawn in his hand. Gang ZT could only touch the ground with his toes by Rakage IT, and said helplessly. This is a decision made by the village. For the all-round development of the ninja's morality, intelligence, body, art and labor, all villages participating in the Chunin exam need to pass the test. Not just candidates, anyone needs to pass the test. After all, the Chunin exam this time is a major project covering the world of all ninjas. Konoha adheres to the principle of perfection in everything, and even the audience must choose excellent audiences. If you don't plan to participate, you can go back the same way, and we will pay for your return travel expenses. So, please don't get excited. After all, everyone is watching. If the scene is too ugly, it will only make everyone laugh. When Rakage I heard this, veins popped in his forehead. Are you saying I'm a joke? Not waiting for Gang ZT to answer. There was a sneer from the side. I turned his head immediately, and saw the little old man Onogi with a mocking smile on his face. What an impolite muscular idiot, can't you even do such a simple question? In fact, because of being trapped in the wild, he would not do it either. But it doesn't prevent him from pretending to understand, and then laughing at I. I don't understand? Do you understand? Old man. I let go of Gang ZT's collar and came to Onoki. Lousy is going to see how good you can get in the exam. Cloud Shinobi immediately stood behind I. Wangtu and the others were not to be outdone, and stood behind Onoki to confront Cloud Shinobi. Are we going to fight? Hidan growled excitedly, looking impatient. Deidara rolled his eyes. Idiot, with so many people watching, how could they fight? Hidan glanced sideways immediately. But without waiting for Hidan to speak, the batter knife hit him on the head. Looking back, it was the Angle. Don't make noise, brat. Angle said in a hoarse voice. Hidan curled his lips and stopped talking. Okay, don't be so serious, everyone. Kodzuki Izumo came to the middle of the two sides. Although his face was covered with cold sweat, he had to stand up and smooth things over. Well, please don't get stuck here, other people still have to test. I and Onogi's eyes immediately fell on Kodzuki Izumo. Immediately, the pressure on Kodzuki Izumo increased. Sweat fell from his forehead like a waterfall. At this time Kodzuki Izumo kept praying in his heart. Hope these two don't fight. Otherwise, he, a little Konoha gatekeeper, would definitely not survive. After all, these are two shadows, and he Kodzuki Izumo is just a little chunin. Fortunately, the two of you are still the shadows of your respective villages, and now you are as naive as two children. Chiyo said nonchalantly. If I were your mother, I would be ashamed to suffocate you with pillows, and strangle you in the cradle so that you will not be ashamed when you come out. As soon as these words came out, the hatred value was immediately full. Puppet old woman. Are you courting death? Rakage Aisha's big fists were clenched tightly, and lightning flashed from his body. It seemed as if he was about to rush out uncontrollably the next moment. Killer Bee quickly grabbed his brother. Brother, don't be impulsive, don't forget our purpose. Killer Bee whispered in I's ear. I snorted coldly, and removed the lightning-style chakra on his body, but his face was still ugly. Chiyo didn't even look at I, she went straight to Gang ZT and said with her hands behind her back. What are your requirements for this test? How do you pass it? Gang ZT was stunned for a moment, and then hurriedly stated the request to pass. Since this is the first time for you to take this kind of test, the requirements for you are not high. The full score is 100 points, and everyone only needs to reach 30 points to pass. Please work hard, everyone. Chiyo immediately looked disgusted. 30 minutes to pass? Cut, don't you consider raising the scoreline? The difficulty is too low, and I'm afraid that some unqualified guys can get in. Saying that, Chiyo's eyes fell on I's body brightly. I immediately frowned. If it weren't for Killer Bee's desperate stop, I'm afraid there will be a high and low fight. This is a comprehensive consideration. After all, many people have not been exposed to this kind of knowledge. Gang ZT replied with a helpless smile. HMPH, forget it. Chio shook her head boredly. It seems that I really expect I to do it. After this wave of conflict, everyone became much more stable. Everyone silently found a corner and began to answer the paper. Konoha's security team is in charge of watching, lest anyone learn from each other's answers. That is, anti-copying. After all, it is just a simple test, and there are not many questions. Those who do it fast get it done quickly. Chio was the first to come forward and hand in the paper. Then one after another everyone handed in the papers. Holding the correct answer, Kodzuki Izumo and Kodzuki are in charge of reviewing the paper. Pass. No, pass. No, number. No, after everyone has checked. The pass rate turned out to be only a pitiful 10%. This result surprised everyone present. Kokoti and Kodzuki Izumo were amazed by the high pass rate. After all, if they didn't have the answers in their hands, they wouldn't know these questions at all. This is the case that they have been exposed to similar knowledge. After all, it was because of Naruto that these knowledge began to be popularized in ninja schools. The vast majority of ninjas are not interested in this knowledge, and have no idea of learning. Among the people, the one with the most knowledge of this kind is undoubtedly the researcher Orochimaru. However, in order to keep a low profile, Orochimaru was not the first to hand in the paper, nor did he answer all the questions, but barely passed the passing mark. The same goes for pockets. The other passers are the ones who have gone all out to achieve the scores. Among them, the qualified person with the highest score is Chio, with 5 points. Conan followed with 50 points. The rest of the passers are all above 30 points, hovering around 40 points. Chio and Conan are the only ones with more than 50 points. As for the unqualified, ahahaha, didn't you think you couldn't solve such a simple problem? You guys really opened my eyes. Chio smiled recklessly. Opposite her are Raikage Eye with clenched fists, Dot and Onogi. Yes. Onoki also failed. This made Onogi, who had mocked Eye before, feel a burning pain on his face. Face off at the scene. Conan looked at all the Akatsuki members speechlessly. Yes. In Akatsuki's organization, only Conan is qualified, and everyone else is unqualified. This is just great. Before the plan even started, the Akatsuki organization was wiped out. The good news is that other people are not doing well. Sanagakure passed Chio and Rasa. Everyone else passed. Iwagakure has 0 pass rate. Cloud Shinobi Village passed by Shi and Killer Bee. Killer Bee's qualification was a surprise. After all, Killer Bee has always been a fool. As a result, everyone else failed, but Killer Bee passed. The qualifiers for Kirigakure are Yagura and Jonin in Obito guise. But Obito cheated through. Obito replicated Chio's moves with the power of the Sharingan. However, some were intentionally deleted, so that his score just passed the passing line. This is also Obito's luck, otherwise he will fail if he deletes a little more. Almost flipped over. Itonin Village is naturally Orochimaru in pocket. The rest of the passers, because some of them are from Shaorin Village. Perhaps there are not many ninjutsu that Shaonin Village can learn, so spend more time on learning theoretical knowledge. Everyone is worrying right now. Taking the Chunin exam this time, it can be said that and they all have ulterior motives. But in the end, they couldn't even get in the door, so naturally they couldn't mention their secret plans. At this time, Gang ZT and Kodzuki Izumo came over with a large pile of printed paper and said, "Everyone who is not qualified, please don't be discouraged. Here are the review materials for this test. Please study hard, we will test again in 3 days. If you still can't pass the test after 3 days, then we can only regretfully announce that you are out." The words of the two immediately rekindled the hope of these people with evil intentions. Although there are a lot of review materials, for these ninjas, it takes 3 days, not to mention mastering them, at least memorizing them is no problem. And even if you can't, others can too. Can't do it or copy it. Ninja itself is a profession that is good at stealing information. The reason why most people failed this time, it's because everyone doesn't know who knows the correct answer. If you want to copy, you dare not copy casually. Moreover, everyone is old fried dough sticks, of course they know how to guard against others' plagiarism. If that's the case, then you should study hard. Conan said helplessly. I'll go in and see the situation first. Pain could only nod helplessly. Go ahead, we'll be there soon. If there is any news, let us know in time. Conan nodded. For Conan, who owns Shiki Paper Dance, it is so convenient to pass information. After humiliating Reikage and Tsuchikage to her heart's content, Chiyo walked into the Konoha gate contentedly. Then, it was blocked. What do you mean? Didn't my door pass the examination? Chiyo's face darkened. She just finished taunting Reikage and Tsuchikage, and she doesn't want to be stopped at this time. Being pulled over means she is likely to be counter-taunted by Reikage and Tsuchikage. Just thinking of that scene made Chiyo feel uncomfortable. Steel Iron said with a smile, "You just passed the first test. Those who pass the first test need to take the second test." When the qualified person heard it, Yi Shi was stunned. Some people suddenly became dissatisfied and noisy. Why are there more? It's outrageous enough to need a test to enter the door, but the face test is more than one. Are you Konoha too crazy? Isn't this underestimating us? Is it because our Shaoguo ninja village is not even considered a human being in your Konoha eyes? It's just too deceiving. Everyone spoke angrily, and the more they talked, the more excited they became. Their faces were red, as if they could rush up to punch Gang ZT and Kodzuki Izumo at any time. Chiyo was also taken aback, then pouted and said, "It's really cumbersome. Which bastard made this assessment?" Gang ZT scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. Actually, Kodzuki Izumo quickly covered Gang ZT's mouth and said with a smile, "This is Lord Hokage's idea, all for the smooth and successful completion of this unique Chunin exam. Please take care of me, everyone. Of course, if you feel that you have been insulted, you can leave here, and we will be responsible for the travel expenses for the seat back." However, Chiyo's spirit is no longer in the words of Kodzuki Izumo. Although Gang ZT didn't say his full name just now. But just one syllable is enough to make the ears of those present prick up. Because their goals are very consistent, which is Naruto. Upon hearing that these trials turned out to be from Naruto, everyone looked serious. The small country ninjas don't know who Naruto is. He didn't care about Gang ZT's leaked words. Still expressing dissatisfaction angrily. At this time, Konan stood up first and said, "What is the content of the second test?" As soon as the words came out, the ninja from the small country who passed by looked at Konan in surprise. Kodzuki Izumo rolled his eyes and said immediately, "The second test has a variety of items. Since you are the only candidate who passed the written test in Rain Shinobi Village, your test item is shuriken throwing." Everyone was taken aback when they heard the content of the test. The written test just now was so difficult. This is the end of the second test? Konan was also taken aback. Compared with the previous written test, this test is really too simple. This is obviously abnormal. The so-called abnormality must have a demon. There must be a trap here. The old and experienced Chiyo realized the core of the problem. What are the eligibility criteria for the second test? When Chiyo asked, Konan immediately realized the problem. The content of the test is simple, but the difficulty must lie in the eligibility criteria. Yes, how do you qualify? Kodzuki Izumo cleared his throat and said, "It's very simple. Throw 30 hidden weapons in a row within 3 seconds, and accurately hit multiple targets in line of sight, and hit the crosshairs." Wow. Everyone was dumbfounded, followed by another frenzied denunciation. Treading on a horse is something a human can do. Look and see who can do it. I don't believe you people from Konoha can do it. That's right. The content of this test is too outrageous. You just don't want people to go in. You're just trying to make things difficult for people. I see that you are trying to reject other candidates from Ninja Village in this way, and then declare that your Konoha candidate is the only one who passed the Chunin exam. It's really despicable and shameless. The crowd was furious. The scene got out of control for a while. At this time, there were crackling sounds in the air. Everyone be alert immediately. But I saw wooden targets stuck on the ground one by one. There are 30 of them. Then a figure fell from the sky and landed on the target doctor. "Senior Mitarashi, why are you here?" Kodzuki Izumo said with some surprise. Anko poked his waist and said, "If I don't come again, there will be a big trouble. Since the scene is about to get out of control, why don't you know to call someone over?" Orochimaru, who was hidden in the crowd, saw Anko, and a flash of memory flashed in his eyes. Anko is a disciple of Orochimaru. Also Orochimaru's experimental subject. It's just that Orochimaru didn't take Anko with him when he defected. After all, in Orochimaru's view, Anko's qualifications are limited, and it's not worth his risk to take away. Although Orochimaru left a curse mark on Anko's body as a backhand before leaving. "Who are you, little girl?" Chiyo asked with a frown. Kodzuki Izumo immediately explained. Senior Mitarashi Anko is one of the examiners this time. Mitarashi Anko looked at Chiyo and said suddenly. Is that you? Advisor to Sanagakure who Naruto defeated? Sorry, I forgot your name. Simple bad breath, the ultimate treat. Blue veins popped out on Chiyo's forehead, and his anger value instantly filled up. Onoki was immediately happy. I didn't expect this to be true. I thought it was just a rumor. Although Onoki had heard the news, the only witnesses were Konoha shinobi and San shinobi ninjas. Only they know the specific situation. Onoki had no way of judging the truth of the news. It now appears that the situation where Uzumaki Naruto defeated Chiyo was real. Onoki is not surprised either. After all, Onoki has seen Naruto's unbelievable flying speed. With that kind of speed, even if you can't fight, no one can catch up if you want to escape. As if Anko didn't see Chiyo's anger, he said in a low voice. I'm here to prove to you that the tests we propose have all been tested in advance. It is only proposed when it is confirmed that it can be completed, rather than just thinking of it casually to embarrass others. Now I'll show it off. Suddenly quiet down. Only then did everyone understand why Anko got so many targets for before he came. It was meant to be a demonstration. The number of targets is exactly 30, and they are all around Anko. It can be said that it has increased the difficulty in disguise. Orochimaru also looked at Anko with interest. In his vision, it was impossible for Anko to do such a thing. But now that Anko has stepped forward, it is obviously impossible without full assurance. Orochimaru was curious as to why Anko had improved so much in such a short period of time. Anko took a deep breath, then lowered his body with a dignified expression. Then, it started with the sound of Kodzuki Izumo. Anko's hands suddenly turned into afterimages. 30 shurikens and kunai were thrown out by her in an instant. However, before the results were announced, someone said arbitrarily. She failed. Because when Anko threw the hidden weapon, he didn't turn around. In this case, how does Anko let the hidden weapon hit the dozen or so targets behind him? No matter how you think about it, it is impossible. But in the eyes of real masters, everything is inevitable. Accompanied by the sound of more than a dozen shurikens colliding. The shurikens in the air changed their course and flew behind Anko instead. Each shuriken landed on the center of each target with such precision. Anko's move directly shocked everyone present. They never expected that the 30 shurikens would actually hit the target accurately. It can really be done. Who is she? Does Konoha have such a powerful number one person? Are you an idiot? Did the person who didn't hear Konoha talk about the basic test? You mean, this is just the foundation for Konoha's people? This is crazy. If the Konoha shinobi are all this strong. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. This is just the basic test of the Chunin assessment. Is this really something that humans can do? Some people questioned, some people doubted, no one is willing to believe such outrageous things. But this is a fact that happened before their eyes. It's not illusion. Orochimaru's eyes widened, never expecting that Anko, who was abandoned by him at the beginning, would have such superb shuriken throwing skills. It's really surprising. Logically speaking, with Anko's talent, it's impossible for her to have such strength. Orochimaru licked his lips, an involuntary gesture when he was excited. Suddenly, Orochimaru thought of a blonde figure and thought of a possibility. Could it be Naruto? Yes. If something unbelievable happens to Konoha, it must have something to do with Naruto. There is no doubt about it. Didn't you expect that not only your own strength is strong, but also the people around you can be affected to break through your own limit? It's getting more and more exciting. Everyone chattered and questioned. But no one dared to step forward to test it, because this really is too outrageous. On the contrary, Raikage I and others who failed the written test could not help but curl their lips. If I didn't pass the written test, I would be able to solve this level of test in minutes. Besides, Tsuchikage also said dissatisfied, that's it. Isn't it embarrassing people to make these inexplicable topics? Afterwards, the two glanced at each other, and their mood suddenly became worse. He snorted and turned his head away, not wanting to look at the other person's face. At this time, Insemaru said in a disguised voice. You said earlier that there are many kinds of items in the second test, so besides shuriken, what else? Gang ZT seemed to have just realized it, and then said hastily. Yes, there are several other projects. The sudden appearance of Anko earlier disrupted the rhythm of the speech. Although it is also a disguised form to prove the feasibility of the project. But it also made Kodzuki Izumo and Gang ZT forget to continue explaining. Kozuki Izumo looked calmer. In addition to hidden weapon throwing, there are also body flicker technique tests, compound tests, etc. Some exams require different numbers of people, so I recommended this Miss Rain Shinobi to participate in the one-person Dark Alliance throwing exam. When everyone heard that there were other test items, the noisy voice suddenly became much quieter. At least, if there is no way out from the hidden weapon throwing side, they can see if other projects can pass. What is the body flicker technique test? What's the meaning of compound postgraduate entrance examination? Aside from these three, what other tests are there? Please explain in detail. The staff of Shaonin Village who passed by said in a hurry. The implication is that I don't want to choose hidden weapon throwing. Obviously he didn't feel that his concealed weapon throwing was qualified. Kozuki Izumo said patiently. The body flicker technique test is very simple, that is to use a body flicker technique over a distance of more than 50 meters. There are many ways to combine postgraduate entrance examinations, and this is also suitable for multiple members to act together. For example, grab the bell from the tester, or resist the tester's attack, etc. In addition to these, there is also a basic ninjutsu test, which needs to concentrate the power of the basic ninjutsu of each department to a certain level. As soon as these words came out, there was another uproar in the Yin family. 50 meters in a flash? Is this still the body flicker technique? I'm at most 10 meters in an instant. Sure enough, throwing a test of the same level as a hidden weapon is definitely not a crime. I don't think Konoha intends for us to succeed at all. The big ninja village really looks down on those of us who came from the little ninja village. It's too much to bully. I don't know the Chunin exam. The people next to him quickly covered the mouth of the overly excited guy to prevent him from saying something inappropriate. Even if he didn't want to take the Chunin exam, others still did. And this Chunin exam gathered most of the ninja villages in the entire ninja world, expressing their own villages on such a big stage. It will play a very important role in Ganzi's acceptance of commissions in the future. They don't want to waste this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because of the excitement of an idiot. When Orochimaru heard the bell, his eyes turned immediately, and he already had an idea. Snatching the bell was something he did when he was a child. In the original trio, it was he, Orochimaru, and Tsunade who snatched the bell from third generation, and that idiot Jiraiya was tied to a tree stump to watch them eat. Now that I think about it, it's all just memories. Orochimaru couldn't help sighing a little too. But it was quickly forgotten by him. That's when Orochimaru wanted to be the first to challenge. Conan stepped out first. When can I start the challenge? Gang ZT froze for a moment, then said, anytime is fine. Which one do you want to choose? Hidden weapon throwing and body flicker technique can be tested by one person, and basic ninjutsu power test can also be tested. Conan directly interrupted Gang ZT's words. Concealed weapon throwing. Saying that, Conan went straight to Anko's place. Anko squinted his eyes to get out of the way, intending to see what this ordinary-looking woman was capable of. Anyway, judging from Conan's indifferent state, it seems that he didn't take this test seriously. In fact, other tests were somewhat difficult for Conan. But for Conan who owns Shikiji Dance, this is the easiest test. I saw Conan clapping his hands, and there was a bunch of paper shurikens in his hands. Then randomly thrown. Under the control of Conan, these paper shurikens accurately hit all the bullseyes. Anko squinted his eyes, intuitively feeling that there was something wrong with Conan's throwing method. But she didn't see anything like chakra thread, and even using chakra thread wasn't a foul. After all, there are ways to use some kunai and steel wires to entangle the enemy and then capture the enemy alive. So it's not strictly speaking cheating, but Anko just didn't feel right. If Anko knew about Conan's unique ninjutsu-style paper dance, I'm afraid he wouldn't think so. But Anko didn't see anything right now, so although he felt something was wrong, he could only declare Conan a success. Well, it's over. Anko nodded, then looked at the others. Who's the second one? At this time, Orochimaru came out and said. Let's come. Camouflaged Orochimaru and Ko come forward. Anko looked at the disguised Orochimaru, and her intuition made her feel uncomfortable. This feeling came suddenly, and it was very inexplicable. Anko suddenly felt very puzzled. Have we ever met? Orochimaru shook his head and said. How come? It's the first time I've met you. Anko suppressed the doubts in his heart and said. Tell me, what test do you choose? Orochimaru said without hesitation. Grab the bell. Anko nodded, took out a bell and put it on his belt. As long as you snatch the bell from me within 5 minutes, you will pass the test. Let's start now. Whoosh! Orochimaru and Kabuki attacked immediately and disappeared in place in an instant. Do suddenly appeared behind Anko, and the chakra scalpel in his hand slashed towards the back of Anko's neck without any mercy. If this undercut hits, Anko will either die or be injured. And Orochimaru stormed from the front, leaving Anko no room to breathe. However, just as Orochimaru and Ko's attacks hit, Anko thumped, accompanied by a cloud of white mist, and turned into a tree stump. Body replacement technique. It's so fast. With his eyes fixed, he thought that he and Orochimaru were fast enough. It turned out that Anko's speed was degrees faster than them. But Orochimaru didn't think the first hit would work at all. After missing a hit, he immediately rushed towards where Anko appeared. Anko stared. This is a master. To be able to judge where she fell, this power of observation is no small feat. Anko immediately took it seriously, however, after several rounds of fighting. Sudden. Anko felt a palpitation in his heart, and his movements slowed down a beat. At this moment, Yin Snake seized the opportunity to reach the bell. Are we qualified? Orochimaru asked with a smile. Anko looked at Orochimaru with lingering fear, full of doubts in his heart. At this time, Anko has not guessed that the person opposite is Orochimaru who abandoned her and left. Looking at the bell held by Orochimaru, he could only nod helplessly and said, "You are qualified." Qualifiers appear consecutively. This made those who passed the first pass of Shaonin Village a lot of confidence. So, they stepped forward one after another, intending to use this momentum to pass the second assessment. That's it, Anko said dissatisfied. Are you willing to take the Chunin exam at this level? Let's go back and practice for a few years. No one has passed the test since Orochimaru. All the members of Ninja Village failed. Now there are only 6 remaining assessors, Chiyo and Rasa of Sanagakure, Shi and Killer Bee from Cloud Shinobi Village, Kiragakure's Citrus Yagura and Obito. Anko looked at the rest of the people and said with a frown, "Stop dawdling. Let's start quickly. I will continue to practice after the assessment is over." Chiyo snorted coldly, stepped forward and said, "What a rude little girl. Then I'll show you, little girl, what is concealed weapon throwing." Anko nodded and said, "Let's begin then." With a wave of Chiyo's hands, 30 shurikens were thrown out by her. And the back of these shurikens are connected with extremely thin chakra silk threads. If you don't look carefully, you can't see it at all. Under Chiyo's control, these shurikens hit the bull's eye minister with precision. Anko wasn't surprised at all. When seeing Chiyo, Anko realized what Chiyo did. After all, Chiyo is famous for puppetry. For Chiyo, who is good at manipulating puppets with chakra threads, 30 shurikens are nothing more than nothing. Pass. Anko said dryly, looking at the others. Chiyo frowned, she felt ignored. But Chiyo just snorted coldly and didn't care about Anko. Luo Sha also stepped forward and said, "Concealed weapon throwing." As he spoke, before Anko could speak, Luo Sha started his own actions. I saw that he made a seal with both hands, and some sand like gold dust gathered, forming 3,000 shurikens in the air. Then Luo Sha waved his hand, and these gold dust shurikens hit the bull's eye one after another. Pass. Anko nodded. After all, Luo Sha is a cage, and it was within Anko's expectation that he could pass. Next came Yagura and Obito. If there is only Obito alone, Leishi will use the hidden weapon to throw. After all, when Anko threw before, Obito had copied Anko's action. But Obito can't throw the Citrus Yagura here. Citrus Yagura is under Obito's illusion and must be controlled by Obito. Therefore, Obito had no choice but to choose to grab the bell with Yagura. Because of the strength of Obito and Yagura, Anko didn't survive a few rounds before being deprived of the bell. Obito and Yagura also advanced smoothly. The last remaining promotions are He and Killer Bee. He and Killer Bee didn't choose to join forces. Even if they pass together, the probability of the two passing will be greater. But after careful consideration, she chose to let Killer Bee pass the test stably alone. Killer Bee chose the basic ninjutsu test. Then with the chakra from 8 tails, it hits the mark with ease. And she was not so lucky. She, who chose to throw hidden weapons, only managed to hit 20 hidden weapons in the end, failing the assessment. Well, there are more ninjutsu that passed the assessment than expected. But also acceptable. Anko nodded. Orochimaru listened, and couldn't help but be silent. All those who passed are cage-level experts. Are you sure this is the Chunin assessment? The strength of the qualified person is completely qualified to be the shadow of a village. This test is simply outrageous. Is this the end? Conan asked flatly. Gang ZT shook his head quickly and said. No. Please move to the guest house, there will be someone to lead you to the guest house. It's really hard work, everyone. After Conan listened, he turned and glanced at Pain and the others. I'll go in and check the situation first, and if there's anything unusual, I'll notify you immediately. Conan whispered. Pain nodded slightly, and said in a low voice. Pay attention to safety, and be careful of those Otoshi people, they are not simple. Conan nodded silently, indicating that he understood. Pain said. Rendezvous in 3 days. Conan nodded and turned to leave. Under the leadership of Pain, the people organized by Xiao came to a vacant tent around a review material. For the next 3 days, they will keep reading these materials here. Otherwise, if you fail the test after 3 days, it will be a waste of time. Killer Bee came in front of his brother, not knowing what to say. But I himself was not in a bad mood. I patted Killer Bee on the shoulder and said. Good job, at least we didn't embarrass our Cloud Shinobi village. Unlike some people, there is not even a single qualified person. As he spoke, I glanced at Onoki who was beside him. Onoki blushed with anger, but he couldn't refute. Whoever made them Iwagakure didn't have a single pass. And they were all brushed down during the first test. Give me back to death. Whoever fails after 3 days, I will make him unable to be a ninja for the rest of his life. As soon as Onogi said this, all the rock shinobi ninjas shivered. They knew very well that Onoki kept his word. They ran into the tent in a hurry, and began to carry the thick review materials on their backs desperately. Among them, Black Soil was somewhat disappointed. Because she didn't see Naruto appear. Under Obito's control, Yagura told Mist Shinobi a few words, nothing more than studying hard and not being left behind by other ninja villages, and then left with Obito. Orochimaru also ordered a few words, and then left. Luo Sha looked at her 3 children silently, with extremely indifferent emotions in her eyes. Review well. Don't lose my face. After speaking, he left without looking back. Tamari and Konkuro trembled. Gaara's expression was normal, but she took a review material and turned to an empty tent. Gaara is not afraid of Luo Sha, but Gaara is obviously not a person who admits defeat. 3 days later, Gaara is going to shock everyone. Just as various tests were being carried out at the gate of Konoha in full swing. In a dark space somewhere in Konoha village, Danzo sat upright in a dark room, his eyes blurred. The pain from his body tortured Danzo's nerves constantly. But Danzo is used to it. Even without these pains, Danzo would be a little unaccustomed to it. At this time, Danzo has just completed a new round of pupil power training. The freshly wrapped bandage on the arm soon seeped blood again. But Danzo didn't realize it, just thinking about various things indiscriminately. This Chunin exam is an opportunity, but how can I take advantage of this opportunity? The ninjas from the 5 major countries came together, and even the shadows from the 5 major countries gathered together. If I can cause chaos, I might be able to take out Danzo in the chaos. At that time, with the support of the roots and the support of those 2 useless consultants, I will definitely be able to become the new Hokage. No. The position of Hokage is not in a hurry. What really needs to be in control is Naruto. Naruto's strength is getting stronger and stronger. Before Naruto has fully grown, you must hold him firmly in your hands. Otherwise, when Naruto grows out of control, even if he sits on the position of Hokage, he will not be safe. But do I have a chance now? The pupil power has not been increased, but a few Sharingan can't bear this way of improvement, and have been abolished. Fortunately, Shisui's eyes are still intact, but the distinguished heavenly gods have no effect on Naruto. If you don't improve your pupil power, you can't control Naruto at all. Sure enough, you still need to improve your pupil power. Only by increasing the pupil power can the potential of Shisui's eyes be fully developed by me. Just wait, Naruto. After I raise my pupil power, that's the day you will become my loyal subordinate. Ha 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 ha. Danzo couldn't help laughing wildly. Anyway, there is only Danzo in this room, and the soundproofing effect of the room is very good. Danzo doesn't need to worry about being overheard by others. Danzo-sama, is there something to be happy about? If you don't mind, can you tell me to make me happy too? Danzo's laughter stopped abruptly, and he stared at Naruto who suddenly appeared in the room with wide eyes. You. Danzo was startled and terrified in his heart. He didn't realize when Naruto appeared at all. If Naruto didn't make a sound, but quietly came to the back to touch. Danzo didn't dare to think deeply, but the cold sweat from the back of fear had covered Danzo's whole body. How the hell did you get in here? The base of the root is top secret information. It is impossible for ordinary people to know where the roots are. Not to mention Naruto, who Danzo has always watched and feared. But Naruto still appeared in front of Danzo. Naruto spread his arms and said with a smile. It seems that I disturbed Master Danzo's interest, I'm really sorry. However, I came to Master Danzo this time because I want to cooperate with Master Danzo on some matters. Cooperate? Danzo frowned. If he didn't know that the distinguished heavenly gods were useless to Naruto, he would make Naruto honestly explain everything. But unfortunately, Danzo can only think about this kind of thing in his heart. How did you find this place? Naruto said with a smile. Is it hard to find here? As long as you follow the person Danzo-sama sent to watch me, you will find this place. In fact, Naruto, who owns observation haki, knew where the roots were early on. It's just that there was no need to come here before, so Naruto didn't come here. This time I really want to cooperate with Danzo. As an examinee, Naruto is not easy to do this, and it is also to maintain Naruto's superficial personality. Naruto can't do those things, at least in the eyes of third generation and many Konoha shinobi followers. So Naruto found the perfect fit. That is Danzo, known as the darkness of ninja world. Those idiots. Danzo cursed secretly in his heart, but there was no expression on his face. You just said cooperation? What do you want to cooperate with this old man? Naruto said. This time in the Chunin exam, the contestants seem to be quite strong. If it follows the assessment method of Grandpa third generation, I am worried that the difficulty will not be enough. I'm afraid there will be a large number of qualified candidates at that time. If there are too many passers, then the Chunin exam will be too watery. Only the elite among the elites are worthy to stand out from this Chunin exam. Danzo frowned. After hearing so much from Naruto, he couldn't understand what Naruto meant. So, what do you want to do? Naruto stood in the shadows, grinning darkly. So, I hope Lord Danzo can send an assassin to carry out the assassination. Knowing that it is a contestant, whether it is our own Konoha or other people from Ninja Village, don't hold back your hand. Only under the stimulation of real death can the real elite be selected. Danzo was stunned when he heard this. What happened? Is this person in front of me really Naruto? That Naruto who acted like a good boy in front of Hiruzen? Could it be someone else pretending to be it? But Shisui's eyes told Danzo that what he saw was not an illusion, and Naruto was not a pretended existence. That is, now in front of Danzo is Naruto. That Naruto who looks so kind. Danzo's head suddenly became as confused as a ball of paste. What is going on? Could it be that this is Naruto's true face? Hiruzen, you think Naruto is a good person, but in fact, Naruto is much more vicious than you imagined. Like a devil in the world. But Danzo feels that the current Naruto is very much to his liking. Moreover, once Danzo discloses this matter to third generation, maybe third generation will become suspicious of Naruto. This is also a good thing for Danzo. At least the third generation won't be so partial to Naruto, regardless of their decades of comradeship. So, after pondering for a moment, Tuan slowly nodded. For the future of Konoha, this matter can only be done by us who are in the dark. Even if all the roots are sacrificed, the prosperity of Konoha must be ensured. Naruto said with a smile. Master Danzo has worked hard. Would you sacrifice the roots? Stop joking around. Naruto sneered inwardly. The two smiled tacitly. Then Naruto left quietly, just like he usually does. Time passed quietly. A week passed quickly. Except for some people from Shaonin village who couldn't pass the test anyway. The people of the 5 great ninja villages have all passed the test by showing their special abilities. Konoha is in order to entertain many ninja village members, and it is also for the convenience of management. A large area was deliberately marked out and a residential area was built for them. And very scheming let Cloud Shinobi and Rock Shinobi be neighbors. After all, these two villages have a lot of hatred. Third Raikage died because of Rock Shinobi's betrayal. This enmity is not insignificant. The high-level Konoha also had the idea of causing trouble in the two villages. After all, this is in Konoha's territory, and Konoha is not easy to shoot. This kind of thing can only be done by borrowing other people's hands. Certainly. The roots can also take advantage of the chaos to do a few tricks, and then just blame others. Anyway, Danzo has done enough of blaming this kind of thing. But after going through that kind of heart-wrenching test, it is obvious that none of the ninja villages intend to go out. They all hid in the house and couldn't come out, and they didn't know if they were planning some conspiracy. It's so embarrassing, Hidan yelled angrily. Lousy has never studied hard in his life. I didn't expect to learn so many things in this shit Konoha. Lousy just wants to kill someone now to calm my inner anger. In the room, members of the Akatsuki organization were still wearing disguises. Although here is the room provided to them, but he had to guard against the possibility of Konoha's spying. If they are exposed due to negligence, it is obviously not worth the loss. Do you feel itchy? Deidara smiled slightly. That's because you're going to grow your brain. Why don't you thank Konoha's people? Hidan suddenly became angry, and pulled out a scythe as tall as a man in his hand. You bastard. Lousy will sacrifice you to Lord Evil God today. Boom. Kakuzu punched Hidan and said coldly. Idiot, it's a drama. Also, try not to mention names like evil gods, as it will easily reveal your identity. After all, the cult of the Cthulhu is a product of the country of Tang, and it is easy to arouse suspicion by rashly appearing in the team of Rain Shinobi Village. Seeing that it was Kakuzu who hit him, Hidan pressed down forcefully although he was still very angry. Because Hidan knows that his secret technique is of no use to Kakuzu. Hidan's mystic, or sorcery, can only destroy one of Kakuzu's hearts. For Kakuzu, who has several hearts, it's just a drizzle. And Kakuzu can replace the lost heart at any time. So, Hidan was defeated by Kakuzu. This is why Pain arranged for the two to be partners. If it were someone else, Pain would be worried. One is the fear that Kakuzu might gouge out his partner's heart. Instead, he was worried that Hidan would suddenly go crazy and kill his partner. Only when these two are paired together, can Pain rest assured. Because Kakuzu took Hidan's heart is useless, because Hidan can't die. And Fei Duan Yi couldn't kill Kakuzu. The combination of the two is perfect. As if made for each other. Okay, stop talking nonsense. Pain said calmly. The test or something is over. Now we need to focus on our goals this time around. Pain turned to look at Conan and said. Conan, you came in on the first day, did you notice anything worth noting? Conan stepped forward with a serious face. She first looked at the other Akatsuki members before speaking slowly. This time Konoha has great ambitions. Conan's words, Yishi attracted everyone's attention. Shie and the others, who were not very interested in these things, also looked over. Conan took a deep breath, then spoke slowly. In recent days, I have been monitoring the movement of the target. The target is naturally Naruto. Target has very limited range of motion. Except for the time at home, most of the time is spent in the practice field. And the strength of the target is very strong. At the end of Conan's words, his tone became more serious. The fear in the eyes made others realize immediately that what Conan said was very strong, and it should have surpassed herself. Hidan looked at Pain stupidly. Compared with Pain, who is stronger? Of course Pain. Conan said without hesitation. For Pain's strength, Conan naturally has unconditional trust. But Conan has corresponding scruples, but we can't expose Pain's ability now. Pen is our Shao organization's last hole card. Shao organization's last hole card is me. Black Zetsu sneered in his heart, but he didn't show any expression on the surface, just pretending to be a strange person with a blank face as always. I can't accurately describe how strong the target is. Conan said with a serious face, but I don't think anyone here will be his opponent except Pain. Even more incredible is the teaching ability of the target. It's not just the target who is powerful, those peers who are taught by the target also have impressive strength. Everyone is only 7 or 8 years old, but they already have the strength comparable to Jonin, even surpassing Jonin. To this, Deidara can testify. That's right, Master Naruto is like that. I studied with Master Naruto for a period of time, only to realize that my knowledge of blasting techniques is too shallow. Now my strength can improve by leaps and bounds, it is because of Master Naruto's teaching. Everyone listened to Deidara talking about Master Naruto one by one, and felt something was wrong. That's their goal this time. Now hearing Deidara's intimate address, everyone in the Akatsuki organization was very worried about whether Deidara would rebel on the spot. It seems that they have guessed their scruples. Deidara said with a sneer, are you questioning my professionalism? Although Master Naruto is my mentor, when the time comes, I will not show mercy. It just so happens that I also have a prepared gift for Master Naruto. I don't know what kind of expression Master Naruto will have when he sees the fruits of my hard work." After speaking, Deidara sneered a few times. The others temporarily withdrew their fears. At this time, Itachi, who had been silent all this time, spoke. "I advise you not to do anything to Uchiha's kid." Dried persimmon ghost shark said with a smile. "What? Worried we'll hurt your baby brother?" Itachi glanced at Hoshigaki Kisame coldly, then spoke slowly. "Because Naruto." "Naruto?" Pain frowned slightly. "Is the Uchiha clan related to Naruto?" Pain turned his head to look at Ju. "Intelligence has always been a matter of absolute responsibility." Shaking his head absolutely, White Zetsu said. "It stands to reason that the relationship between the Uchiha clan and Naruto is not harmonious. After all, Naruto's parents, the previous Nine Tails Jinchuriki and 4th Hokage, died because of the Nine Tails riot. And the people in Konoha clearly saw the Sharingan in the eyes of Nine Tails. This has undoubtedly deepened the gap between the Uchiha clan and the Konoha village sons. I don't know if Naruto knows this, but I'm pretty sure that Konoha's higher-ups will definitely limit the contact between Naruto and Uchiha. According to common sense, it is true. Naruto is also well aware of this. So when Naruto went to the Uchiha tribe to teach Uchiha Iron Tree and their group of children, he used his clone to get rid of the monitoring of Root and Anbu quietly before going there. That's why no one knew it before Itachi planned to act." Pain turned to look at Itachi. "Tell me in detail what you know." Apparently, Itachi wouldn't be dragging Naruto for no reason. Naruto certainly played an important role in this. Now, the key thing is to be able to grasp more news about Naruto. Itachi's voice was low and his vision was blurred, as if he had returned to that night. "If you haven't even noticed it, then it seems that third generation probably didn't even notice it. My plan failed because Naruto secretly raised dozens of Uchiha's children. Even, Naruto used a method I don't know to make all these children open Sharingan. The worst is also the 3 Go Jade, and there are even more than one pair of Mangekyo. I think you guys should know what that means." Everyone's heart trembled. What Mangekyo stands for, they know all too well. Once Deidara refused to accept Itachi as a loser and joined the Akatsuki organization. Then Deidara understood the power of Mangekyo. "It's simply unreasonable." I raised his strong arms angrily. Darui was hanging on his wrist with a panicked face. "Master Raikage, this is not Cloud Shinobi Village, please be sure restrain." Snort. I flung Darui from his arm. The anger in my heart did not diminish, but I also gave up the idea of smashing it. Mainly it's too bullying. Thinking of what happened this week, I's heart was filled with anger. Especially when Tsuchikage Onogi qualified one step ahead of him, the anger in his heart went straight to the sky. Konoha is really deceiving. We were invited to take the Chunin exam, but we were shut out for the exam. Those who can't pass the test are not allowed to come in. How can there be such a reason in the world? Everyone in Cloud Shinobi nodded. They also felt that Konoha had gone too far. It's just bullying. Although the 2 gatekeepers kept explaining that this Chunin exam was the first in history, it required all-round development of morality, intelligence, physique, art and labor, etc., which they didn't understand. But everyone in Cloud Shinobi just felt aggrieved. If they were the only ones, they would just force their way in. But damn Rock Shinobi is still pissed over there, saying that they are a bunch of reckless people who only know how to push their way. Otherwise, they wouldn't be aggrieved to memorize those review materials. HMPH. This account will be settled with Konoha sooner or later. I snorted coldly, tried his best to calm down his anger, and turned to look at Killer Bee. "Bye. What did you investigate when you came in first?" Killer Bee, who was recording something with a note, was taken aback for a moment, as if he didn't realize that I would suddenly talk to him. "Well, Yinye's dumplings are delicious. I have to say, it's the best dumpling I've ever eaten. For this reason, I also composed a song of Tuanzi. Duanzi. Why are you so, bang?" I's heavy punch knocked Killer Bee to the ground. This time no one was stopping the angry eye. Because they also felt that Killer Bee was a little underwhelmed just now. "You piece of shit. Why do you think I made sure you came in first? You bastard. Have you forgotten our purpose?" I roared angrily. She on the side covered her cheeks and shook her head. Killer Bee held out his hand tremblingly. "That store is opened by Naruto." Seeing that Killer Bee dared to refute, I was so angry that he punched him several times. Anyway, Their brothers are rough-skinned and thick-skinned, so it's okay to get hit a few times. Darui said helplessly. Master Killer Bee, the meatball restaurant you mentioned is indeed opened by Naruto, but Naruto only puts his avatar there, and he rarely goes there himself. Next second. Killer Bee sat up as if nothing had happened, if he could ignore the big bags above his head. It turns out that's the case. I said that those Narutos look so dull. It turns out that it's because they are stupid when they make meatballs. Boom. I think you are stupid. Ai's angry punch knocked Killer Bee to the ground again. Since you have seen a few Narutos, can't you tell that they are clones? However, Killer Bee just twitched a few times, and then there was no movement. Darui knelt down to check, then shook his head at Ai. Master Raikage, Master Killer Bee has passed out. This useless piece of trash. Ai still spoke angrily. Forget it. I can't count on this guy. Remember to investigate the target's situation more while there are still 2 days left. The Cloud Shinobi Jonins immediately straightened their faces and responded seriously. Yes, Master Raikage. Hey, I've really suffered these days. Onoki was lying on the bed, and Huang too was beside him to help massage. After all, Onoki is relatively old, and his waist and legs are not very good. I have been living in a simple tent for the past few days, but the old guy's waist is covered enough. Now that I finally came in, I just lay on the bed and didn't plan to get up. Haitu said anxiously. Grandpa, I'm going out. Saying that, he ran out without stopping. Huang too helplessly looked at the direction in which Haitu left. Father, Onoki said indifferently. It's okay, Kitu, Wenya, follow along, don't let Haitu be bullied. It just so happens that if you encounter a target, you can also collect some information. Kitu and Wenya nodded their heads. Yes, Lord Tsuchikage. Wangtu watched the two of them chasing them out, and immediately understood what Onoki was thinking. The anxious face also calmed down. Give Onoki a massage with peace of mind. Onoki closed his eyes comfortably. This time Konoha has made such a big battle, there must be a plan. We'd better figure out Konoha's true intentions, otherwise we'll suffer a lot. Onoki said in his mouth, but there was no worry on his face. Huang too responded silently. Yes, father. After the black soil rushed out, it immediately flew up. But soon 2 shurikens forced her to stop. Haitu frowned, looked down, and saw 2 Konoha Anbu wearing masks. She flew down and said with her hands on her hips. What do you want to do? We are your guests. Anbu was also not polite. Guests don't fly around in the sky at will. What do you want to do? At this time, Kitu and Wenya rushed to stop the violent Haitu from continuing to speak. Miss, this is Konoha's territory after all. Your behavior will easily make them disgusted. Didn't you figure out all the terrain of Konoha by flying? Only then did black soil react. Suddenly, Haitu's face became ashamed. Sorry, I was a little anxious. Anbu didn't take it easy either. I hope there will be no next time. After finishing speaking, Anbu was about to leave. Haitu spoke anxiously, but how could Anbu wait for her? Miss, what are you planning to do? Kai too didn't understand. Before leaving in a hurry, Anbu still wanted to stop Konoha. Haitu lowered his head helplessly. She also wanted to ask Anbu where to find Naruto. Now I just have to ask other people. With such a strong strength, he should be famous in Konoha. Haitu ignored Kitu's inquiry and asked a pedestrian directly. Well, do you know Uzumaki Naruto? You mean Naruto? Of course. The villagers who were caught said it as a matter of course. In the whole Konoha village, who doesn't know Naruto's name? Your forehead protector. Are you from Iwagakure? Are you the one who took the Chunin exam this time? What do you want to do with Naruto? The villagers looked up and down the black soil, curious and wary. After all, Black Earth is an outsider, and Naruto is the rising star of Konoha village. Haitu didn't see the vigilance in the villagers' eyes, and she smiled excitedly after hearing the news about Naruto. Then, do you know where I should find Naruto? Well, I learned some ninjutsu from Naruto before, and I came here this time to see him. The villagers murmured in a low voice. How does Naruto teach ninjutsu to people outside the village? Haitu didn't hear clearly, so he couldn't help asking. What did you say? Naruto's whereabouts? The villager shook his head and said. Nothing. If you want to find Naruto, I don't know where he is either. Before the black soil disappeared, the villagers continued. However, Naruto moves pretty much the same way every day if nothing else. If you didn't see Naruto when you went to school, then Naruto probably went to practice. You should go to the training grounds to look for it. Haito got the clue and immediately turned around and ran away. This time she remembered that she couldn't fly. Only Kaito said to the villagers in embarrassment. Sorry, my lady's character is a little too lively. Thank you very much for your advice. The villagers waved their hands and said. I'm fine, it's good to see such a lively and lovely child. Besides, with your strength, it's impossible to be unfavorable to Naruto. Now all kinds of achievements about Naruto in the village have been spread. Naruto, who can defeat the legendary Sannin alone, naturally cannot lose to these unknown Jonin. Therefore, the villagers are not worried at all that the information they provide will be detrimental to Naruto. Kitu and Wanya bowed to thank him again and then hurried to catch up with Haito. At this time, the second-floor window of a small attic not far away was closed. What's going on outside? Cover the sun with curtains, resulting in a dark room. In the darkness, Luo Sha asked calmly. Baki, who closed the window, bowed his head and said. It was Tsuchikage's granddaughter who flew into the sky rashly and caused Konoha Anbu's warning. It's not a big deal. Snort, Chio snorted coldly and said. That big-nosed old man Inomu actually has a granddaughter of that level, it's really smoke from the ancestral grave. No one in the room dared to answer these words. After all, no one is of the same age. Since it's not a big deal, then don't worry about it. Luo Sha said with a gloomy face. As for you guys, I am very disappointed that it took so long to pass the exam. Luo Sha stared at the three of Gaara. Konkuro and Tamari involuntarily looked away, only Gaara looked straight at Rasa blankly. At this time Gaara has closed her feelings. In Gaara's eyes, Luo Sha is not his father, but the Kazekage of Sanagakure. It can't be blamed on them, after all, even Onoki didn't pass the test in the first place, and it's not bad that they passed. Chio is more tolerant towards the three of them, but the tolerance is limited. As far as your kids are concerned, they've done their best. This is also something that no one dares to answer. Cold sweat kept breaking out on Baki's forehead. It just felt like the atmosphere in the room was getting weirder and weirder. Luo Sha also looked at Chio helplessly. If it weren't for Chio's status as a consultant, how could Luo Sha endure Chio's eccentricity? Forget about this time. When I go back, you all study hard for me. If you can't even surpass Konoha's peers, what use will I have of you?